Exodus, chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel that came into Egypt together with Jacob their father. They came in each with their whole family: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judas, Issachar, Zabulon, Benjamin, Dan and Nephthalim, Gad and Asher. But Joseph was in Egypt, and all the souls born of Jacob were 75. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel increased and multiplied, and became numerous and grew exceedingly strong, and the land multiplied them. And there arose up another king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. And he said to his nation, Behold, the race of the children of Israel is a great multitude, and is stronger than we. Come then, let us deal craftily with them, lest at any time they be increased, and whenever war shall happen to us, these also shall be added to our enemies. And having prevailed against us in war, they will depart out of the land. And he set over them taskmasters, who should afflict them in their works. And they built strong cities for Pharaoh, both Pitho and Rameses, and On, which is Heliopolis. But as they humbled them, by so much they multiplied, and grew exceedingly strong. And the Egyptians greatly abhorred the children of Israel. And the Egyptians tyrannized over the children of Israel by force. And they embittered their life by hard labors, in the clay and in brick-making, and all the works in the plains, according to all the works wherein they caused them to serve with violence. And the king of the Egyptians spoke to the midwives of the Hebrews. The name of the one was Sephora, and the name of the second, Phua. And he said, When you do the office of midwives to the Hebrew women, and they are about to be delivered, if it be a male, kill it. But if a female, save it. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt appointed them. And they saved the male children alive. And the king of Egypt called the midwives, and said to them, Why is it that you have done this thing, and saved the male children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, The Hebrew women are not as the women of Egypt, for they are delivered before the midwives go into them. So they bore children. And God did well to the midwives, and the people multiplied, and grew very strong. And as the midwives feared God, they established for themselves families. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Whatever male child shall be born to the Hebrews, cast into the river, and every female, save it alive. Chapter 2. And there was a certain man of the tribe of Levi, who took as wife one of the daughters of Levi, and she conceived, and bore a male child. And having seen that he was fair, they hid him 3 months. And when they could no longer hide him, his mother took for him an ark, and besmeared it with bitumen, and cast the child into it, and put it in the ooze by the river. And his sister was watching from a distance, to learn what would happen to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to the river to bathe. And her maids walked by the river's side. And having seen the ark in the ooze, she sent her maid, and took it up. And having opened it, she sees the babe weeping in the ark. And the daughter of Pharaoh had compassion on it, and said, This is one of the Hebrews' children. And his sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, Will you that I call to you a nurse of the Hebrews, and shall she suckle the child for you? And the daughter of Pharaoh said, Go. And the young woman went, and called the mother of the child. And the daughter of Pharaoh said to her, Take care of this child, and suckled it for me, and I will give you the wages. And the woman took the child, and suckled it. And when the boy was grown, she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, saying, I took him out of the water. And it came to pass in that length of time, that Moses having grown, went out to his brethren the sons of Israel. And having noticed their distress, he sees an Egyptian striking a certain Hebrew of his brethren the children of Israel. And having looked round this way and that way, he sees no one. And he struck the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And having gone out the second day, he sees 2 Hebrew men fighting. And he says to the injurer, Therefore smite you your neighbor. And he said, Who made you a ruler and a judge over us? Will you kill me as you yesterday killed the Egyptian? Then Moses was alarmed, and said, If it be thus, this matter has become known. And Pharaoh heard this matter, and sought to kill Moses. And Moses departed from the presence of Pharaoh, and lived in the land of Madian. And having come into the land of Madian, he sat on the well. And the priest of Madian had 7 daughters, feeding the flock of their father Jotham. And they came and drew water until they filled their pitchers, to water the flock of their father Jotham. And the shepherds came, and were driving them away. And Moses rose up and rescued them, and drew water for them, and watered their sheep. And they came to Rachel their father. And he said to them, Why have you come so quickly today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us from the shepherds, and drew water for us, and watered our sheep. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? And why have you left the man? Call him therefore, that he may eat bread. And Moses was established with the man. And he gave Sephora his daughter to Moses to wife. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And Moses called his name Gershom, saying, I am a sojourner in a strange land. And in those days after a length of time, the king of Egypt died. And the children of Israel groaned because of their tasks, and cried, and their cry because of their tasks went up to God. And God heard their groanings, and God remembered his covenant made with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and was made known to them. Chapter 3. And Moses was feeding the flock of Jotham his father-in-law, the priest of Madian. And he brought the sheep near to the wilderness, and came to the mount of Horeb. And an angel of the Lord appeared to him in flaming fire out of the bush. And he sees that the bush burns with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will go near and see this great sight, why the bush is not consumed. And when the Lord saw that he drew near to see, the Lord called him out of the bush, saying, Moses, Moses. And he said, What is it? And he said, Draw not near hither. Loose your sandals from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground. And he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses turned away his face, for he was afraid to gaze at God. And the Lord said to Moses, I have surely seen the affliction of my people that is in Egypt, and I have heard their cry caused by their taskmasters, for I know their affliction. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of that land, and to bring them into a good and wide land, into a land flowing with milk and honey, into the place of the Canaanites, and the Chettites, and Amorites, and Perizzites, and Girgashites, and Evites, and Jebusites. And now, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come to me, and I have seen the affliction with which the Egyptians afflict them. And now come, I will send you to Pharaoh king of Egypt, and you shall bring out my people the children of Israel from the land of Egypt. And Moses said to God, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh king of Egypt, and that I should bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt? And God spoke to Moses, saying, I will be with you, and this shall be the sign to you that I shall send you forth. When you bring out my people out of Egypt, then you shall serve God in this mountain. And Moses said to God, Behold, I shall go forth to the children of Israel, and shall say to them, The God of our fathers has sent me to you. And they will ask me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And God spoke to Moses, saying, I am the being. And he said, Thus shall you say to the children of Israel, The being has sent me to you. And God said again to Moses, Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, The Lord God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, and God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and my memorial to generations of generations. Go then and gather the elders of the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, The Lord God of our fathers has appeared to me, the God of Abraham, and God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, saying, I have surely looked upon you, and upon all the things which have happened to you in Egypt. And he said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of the Egyptians to the land of the Canaanites and the Chettites, and Amorites and Perizzites, and Girgashites, and Evites, and Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go into Pharaoh king of Egypt, and you shall say to him, The God of the Hebrews has called us. We will go then a journey of 3 days into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to our God. But I know that Pharaoh king of Egypt will not let you go, save with a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand, and strike the Egyptians with all my wonders, which I shall work amongst them, and after that he will send you forth. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And whenever you shall escape, you shall not depart empty. But every woman shall ask of her neighbor and fellow lodger articles of gold and silver and apparel. And you shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and spoil you the Egyptians. Chapter 4. And Moses answered and said, If they believe me not, and do not listen to my voice, for they will say, God has not appeared to you, what shall I say to them? And the Lord said to him, What is this thing that is in your hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from it. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch forth your hand, and take hold of its tail. So he stretched forth his hand and took hold of the tail, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe you, that the God of your fathers has appeared to you, the God of Abraham, and God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. And the Lord said again to him, Put your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and brought his hand out of his bosom, and his hand became as snow. And he said again, Put your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and brought his hand out of his bosom, and it was again restored to the complexion of his other flesh. And if they will not believe you, nor listen to the voice of the first sign, they will believe you because of the voice of the second sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe you for these two signs, and will not listen to your voice, that you shall take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land. And the water which you shall take from the river shall be blood upon the dry land. And Moses said to the Lord, I pray, Lord, I have not been sufficient in former times, neither from the time that you have begun to speak to your servant. I am weak in speech and slow-tongued. And the Lord said to Moses, Who has given a mouth to man? And who has made the very heart of hearing, and the deaf, the seeing, and the blind? Have not I, God? And now go, and I will open your mouth, and will instruct you in what you shall say. And Moses said, I pray you, Lord, appoint another able person whom you shall send. And the Lord was greatly angered against Moses, and said, Behold, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he will surely speak to you. And, behold, he will come forth to meet you, and beholding you he will rejoice within himself. And you shall speak to him, and you shall put my words into his mouth, and I will open your mouth in his mouth, and I will instruct you in what you shall do. And he shall speak for you to the people, and he shall be your mouth, and you shall be for him in things pertaining to God. And this rod that was turned into a serpent you shall take in your hand, wherewith you shall work miracles. And Moses went and returned to Jotham his father-in-law, and says, I will go and return to my brethren in Egypt, and will see if they are yet living. And Jotham said to Moses, Go in health. And in those days after some time, the king of Egypt died. And the Lord said to Moses in Madian, Go, depart into Egypt, for all that sought your life are dead. And Moses took his wife and his children, and mounted them on the beasts, and returned to Egypt. And Moses took the rod which he had from God in his hand. And the Lord said to Moses, When you go and return to Egypt, see, all the miracles I have charged you with, you shall work before Pharaoh, and I will harden his heart. And he shall certainly not send away the people. And you shall say to Pharaoh, These things says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn. And I said to you, Send away my people, that they may serve me. Now if you will not send them away, see, I will kill your firstborn son. And it came to pass that the angel of the Lord met him by the way in the inn, and sought to kill him. And Sephora, having taken a stone, cut off the foreskin of her son, and fell at his feet, and said, The blood of the circumcision of my son is staunched. And he departed from him, because she said, The blood of the circumcision of my son is staunched. And the Lord said to Aaron, Go into the wilderness to meet Moses. And he went and met him in the mount of God. And they kissed each other. And Moses reported to Aaron all the words of the Lord, which he sent, and all the things which he charged him. And Moses and Aaron went and gathered the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spoke all these words, which God spoke to Moses, and wrought the miracles before the people. And the people believed and rejoiced, because God visited the children of Israel, and because he saw their affliction. And the people bowed and worshipped. Chapter 5. And after this went and Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh. And they said to him, These things says the Lord God of Israel, Send my people away, that they may keep a feast to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, Who is he that I should listen to his voice, so that I should send away the children of Israel? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. And they say to him, The God of the Hebrews has called us to him. We will go therefore a 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God, lest at any time death or slaughter happen to us. And the king of Egypt said to them, Why do you, Moses and Aaron, turn the people from their works? Depart each of you to your works. And Pharaoh said, Behold now, the people is very numerous. Let us not then give them rest from their work. And Pharaoh gave orders to the taskmasters of the people and the accountants, saying, You shall no longer give straw to the people for brick making as yesterday and the 3rd day, but let them go themselves, and collect straw for themselves. And you shall impose on them daily the rate of brick making which they perform. You shall not abate anything, for they are idle. Therefore have they cried, saying, Let us arise and do sacrifice to our God. Let the works of these men be made grievous, and let them care for these things, and not care for vain words. And the taskmasters and the accountants hastened them. And they spoke to the people, saying, Thus says Pharaoh, I will give you straw no longer. Go you yourselves, get for yourselves straw wherever you can find it, for nothing is diminished from your rate. So the people were dispersed in all the land of Egypt, to gather stubble for straw. And the taskmasters hastened them, saying, Fulfill your regular daily tasks, even as when straw was given you. And the accountants of the race of the children of Israel who were set over them by the masters of Pharaoh, were scourged and questioned, men saying, Why have you not fulfilled your rates of brickwork as yesterday and the third day, today also? And the accountants of the children of Israel went in and cried to Pharaoh, saying, Why do you act thus to your servants? Straw is not given to your servants. And they tell us to make brick. And behold, your servants have been scourged. You will therefore injure your people. And he said to them, You are idle, you are idlers. Therefore you say, Let us go and do sacrifice to our God. Now then go and work, for straw shall not be given to you, yet you shall return the rate of bricks. And the accountants of the children of Israel saw themselves in an evil plight, men saying, You shall not fail to deliver the daily rate of the brick making. And they met Moses and Aaron coming forth to meet them, as they came forth from Pharaoh. And they said to them, The Lord look upon you and judge you, for you have made our savor abominable before Pharaoh, and before his servants, to put a sword into his hands to kill us. And Moses turned to the Lord, and said, I pray, Lord, why have you afflicted this people? And therefore have you sent me? For from the time that I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has afflicted this people, and you have not delivered your people. Chapter 6. And the Lord said to Moses, Now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh. For he shall send them forth with a mighty hand, and with a high arm shall he cast them out of his land. And God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord, and I appeared to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, being their God, but I did not manifest to them my name Lord. And I established my covenant with them, to give them the land of the Canaanites, the land wherein they sojourned, in which also they lived as strangers. And I listened to the groaning of the children of Israel, the affliction with which the Egyptians enslaved them, and I remembered the covenant with you. Go, speak to the children of Israel, saying, I am the Lord, and I will lead you forth from the tyranny of the Egyptians. And I will deliver you from bondage, and I will ransom you with a high arm and great judgment. And I will take you to me a people for myself, and will be your God. And you shall know that I am the Lord your God, who brought you out from the tyranny of the Egyptians. And I will bring you into the land concerning which I stretched out my hand to give it to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And I will give it you for an inheritance. I am the Lord. And Moses spoke thus to the sons of Israel. And they listened not to Moses for faint-heartedness, and for their hard tasks. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Go in, speak to Pharaoh king of Egypt, that he send forth the children of Israel out of his land. And Moses spoke before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel listen not to me, and how shall Pharaoh listen to me? And I am not eloquent. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, and gave them a charge to Pharaoh king of Egypt, that he should send forth the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. And these are the heads of the houses of their families, the sons of Reuben the firstborn of Israel, Enoch and Phalus, Asron, and Charmi, this is the kindred of Reuben. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin, and Aod, and Jachin, and Sar, and Saul the son of a Phoenician woman, these are the families of the sons of Simeon. And these are the names of the sons of Levi according to their kindred, Jedson, Koth, and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137. And these are the sons of Jedson, Lobni and Semi, the houses of their family. And the sons of Koth, Amram and Isar, Chebron, and Oziel. And the years of the life of Koth were 133 years. And the sons of Merari, Muli, and Amusi, these are the houses of the families of Levi, according to their kindred. And Amram took his wife Jocheb, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bore to him both Aaron and Moses, and Miriam their sister. And the years of the life of Amram were 132 years. And the sons of Isar, Kor, and Naphik, and Zechri. And the sons of Oziel, Misael, and Elisaphan, and Segri. And Aaron took to himself to wife Elizabeth, daughter of Amminadab, sister of Naasson. And she bore to him both Nadab and Abiud, and Eleazar and Ithamar. And the sons of Kor, Asir, and Elkanah, and Abiasar. These are the generations of Kor. And Eleazar the son of Aaron took to himself for a wife one of the daughters of Phudiel, and she bore to him Phinehas. These are the heads of the family of the Levites, according to their generations. This is Aaron and Moses, whom God told to bring out the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt with their forces. These are they that spoke with Pharaoh king of Egypt. And Aaron himself and Moses brought out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, in the day in which the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I am the Lord. Speak to Pharaoh king of Egypt whatever I say to you. And Moses said before the Lord, Behold, I am not able in speech, and how shall Pharaoh listen to me? Chapter 7. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Behold, I have made you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. And you shall say to him all things that I charge you. And Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he should send forth the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden the heart of Pharaoh, and I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh will not listen to you. And I will lay my hand upon Egypt, and will bring out my people the children of Israel with my power out of the land of Egypt with great vengeance. And all the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, stretching out my hand upon Egypt. And I will bring out the children of Israel out of the midst of them. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron his brother was 83 years old, when he spoke to Pharaoh. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Now if Pharaoh should speak to you, saying, Give us a sign or a wonder, then shall you say to your brother Aaron, Take your rod and cast it upon the ground before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and they did so, as the Lord commanded them. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and it became a serpent. But Pharaoh called together the wise men of Egypt, and the sorcerers, and the charmers also of the Egyptians did likewise with their sorceries. And they cast down each his rod, and they became serpents, but the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he listened not to them, as the Lord charged them. And the Lord said to Moses, The heart of Pharaoh is made hard, so that he should not let the people go. Go to Pharaoh early in the morning. Behold, he goes forth to the water. And you shall meet him on the bank of the river, and you shall take in your hand the rod that was turned into a serpent. And you shall say to him, The Lord God of the Hebrews has sent me to you, saying, Send my people away, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And, behold, hitherto you have not listened. These things says the Lord. Hereby shall you know that I am the Lord. Behold, I strike with the rod that is in my hand on the water which is in the river, and it shall change it into blood. And the fish that are in the river shall die, and the river shall stink thereupon, and the Egyptians shall not be able to drink water from the river. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to your brother Aaron, Take your rod in your hand, and stretch forth your hand over the waters of Egypt, and over their rivers, and over their canals, and over their ponds, and over all their standing water, and it shall become blood. And there is blood in all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded them. And Aaron, having lifted up his hand with his rod, struck the water in the river before Pharaoh, and before his servants, and changed all the water in the river into blood. And the fish in the river died, and the river stank thereupon. And the Egyptians could not drink water from the river, and the blood was in all the land of Egypt. And the charmers also of the Egyptians did so with their sorceries. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not listen to them, even as the Lord said. And Pharaoh turned and entered into his house, nor did he fix his attention even on this thing. And all the Egyptians dug round about the river, so as to drink water, for they could not drink water from the river. And 7 days were fulfilled after the Lord has struck the river. And the Lord said to Moses, Go into Pharaoh, and you shall say to him, These things says the Lord, Send forth my people, that they may serve me. And if you will not send them forth, behold, I afflict all your borders with frogs. And the river shall teem with frogs, and they shall go up and enter into your houses, and into your bedrooms, and upon your beds, and upon the houses of your servants, and of your people, and on your dough, and on your ovens. And upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people, shall the frogs come up. Chapter 8. And the Lord said to Moses, Go into Pharaoh, and you shall say to him, These things says the Lord, Send forth my people, that they may serve me. And if you will not send them forth, behold, I afflict all your borders with frogs. And the river shall teem with frogs, and they shall go up and enter into your houses, and into your bedchambers, and upon your beds, and upon the houses of your servants, and of your people, and on your dough, and on your ovens. And upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people, shall the frogs come up. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to Aaron your brother, Stretch forth with the hand your rod over the rivers, and over the canals, and over the pools, and bring up the frogs. And Aaron stretched forth his hand over the waters of Egypt, and brought up the frogs. And the frog was brought up, and covered the land of Egypt. And the charmers of the Egyptians also did likewise with their sorceries, and brought up the frogs on the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, and said, Pray for me to the Lord, and let him take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will send them away, and they shall sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses said to Pharaoh, Appoint me a time when I shall pray for you, and for your servants, and for your people, to cause the frogs to disappear from you, and from your people, and from your houses. Only in the river shall they be left behind. And he said, On the morrow. He said, Therefore, as you have said, that you may know that there is no other God but the Lord. And the frogs shall be removed away from you, and from your houses, and from the villages, and from your servants, and from your people. Only in the river they shall be left. And Moses and Aaron went forth from Pharaoh. And Moses cried to the Lord concerning the restriction of the frogs, as Pharaoh appointed him. And the Lord did as Moses said. And the frogs died out of the houses, and out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. And when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, his heart was hardened, and he did not listen to them, as the Lord spoke. And the Lord said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Stretch forth your rod with your hand, and strike the dust of the earth. And there shall be lice both upon man, and upon quadrupeds, and in all the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his rod with his hand, and struck the dust of the earth. And the lice were on men and on quadrupeds. And in all the dust of the earth there were lice. And the charmers also did so with their sorceries, to bring forth the louse, and they could not. And the lice were both on the men and on the quadrupeds. So the charmers said to Pharaoh, This is the finger of God. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he listened not to them, as the Lord said. And the Lord said to Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh. And behold, he will go forth to the water, and you shall say to him, These things says the Lord. Send away my people, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And if you will not let my people go, behold, I send upon you, and upon your servants, and upon your people, and upon your houses, the dog fly. And the houses of the Egyptians shall be filled with the dog fly, even throughout the land upon which they are. And I will distinguish marvelously in that day the land of Jessamine, on which my people dwell, in which the dog fly shall not be, that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of all the earth. And I will put a difference between my people and your people, and on the morrow shall this be on the land. And the Lord did thus. And the dog fly came in abundance into the houses of Pharaoh, and into the houses of his servants, and into all the land of Egypt. And the land was destroyed by the dog fly. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, saying, Go and sacrifice to the Lord your God in the land. And Moses said, It can't be so. For we shall sacrifice to the Lord our God the abominations of the Egyptians. For if we sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians before them, we shall be stoned. We will go a journey of 3 days into the wilderness, and we will sacrifice to the Lord our God, as the Lord said to us. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go. And do you sacrifice to your God in the wilderness, but do not go very far away. Pray then for me to the Lord. And Moses said, I then will go forth from you and pray to God, and the dog fly shall depart both from your servants and from your people tomorrow. Do not you, Pharaoh, deceive again, so as not to send the people away to do sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh, and prayed to God. And the Lord did as Moses said, and removed the dog fly from Pharaoh, and from his servants, and from his people, and there was not one left. And Pharaoh hardened his heart, even on this occasion, and he would not send the people away. Chapter 9. And the Lord said to Moses, Go into Pharaoh, and you shall say to him, These things says the Lord God of the Hebrews, Send my people away that they may serve me. If however you will not send my people away, but yet detain them, behold, the hand of the Lord shall be upon your cattle in the fields, both on the horses, and on the asses, and on the camels and oxen and sheep, a very great mortality. And I will make a marvelous distinction in that time between the cattle of the Egyptians and the cattle of the children of Israel. Nothing shall die of all that is of the children of Israel. And God fixed a limit, saying, Tomorrow the Lord will do this thing on the land. And the Lord did this thing on the next day. And all the cattle of the Egyptians died, but of the cattle of the children of Israel there died not one. And when Pharaoh saw that of all the cattle of the children of Israel there died not one, the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Take you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses scatter it towards heaven before Pharaoh and before his servants, and let it become dust over all the land of Egypt. And there shall be upon men and upon beasts sore blains breaking forth both on men and on beasts in all the land of Egypt. So he took of the ashes of the furnace before Pharaoh, and Moses scattered it towards heaven, and it became sore blains breaking forth both on men and on beasts. And the sorcerers could not stand before Moses because of the sores, for the sores were on the sorcerers, and in all the land of Egypt. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, And he listened not to them, as the Lord appointed. And the Lord said to Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh. And you shall say to him, These things says the Lord God of the Hebrews, Send away my people that they may serve me. For at this present time do I send forth all my plagues into your heart, and the heart of your servants and of your people, that you may know that there is not another such as I in all the earth. For now I will stretch forth my hand and strike you and kill your people, and you shall be consumed from off the earth. And for this purpose have you been preserved, that I might display in you my strength, and that my name might be published in all the earth. Do you then yet exert yourself to hinder my people, so as not to let them go? Behold, tomorrow at this hour I will rain a very great hail, such as has not been in Egypt, from the time it was created until this day. Now then hasten to gather your cattle, and all that you have in the fields, for all the men and cattle as many as shall be found in the fields, and shall not enter into a house, but the hail shall fall upon them, shall die. He of the servants of Pharaoh that feared the word of the Lord gathered his cattle into the houses, and he that did not attend in his mind to the word of the Lord left the cattle in the fields. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand to heaven, and there shall be hail on all the land of Egypt, both on the men and on the cattle, and on all the herbage on the land. And Moses stretched forth his hand to heaven, and the Lord sent thunderings and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground, and the Lord rained hail on all the land of Egypt. So there was hail and flaming fire mingled with hail. And the hail was very great, such as was not in Egypt, from the time there was a nation upon it. And the hail struck in all the land of Egypt both man and beast. And the hail struck all the grass in the field, and the hail broke in pieces all the trees in the field. Only in the land of Jessamine, where the children of Israel were, the hail was not. And Pharaoh sent and called Moses and Aaron, and said to them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Pray then for me to the Lord, and let him cause the thunderings of God to cease, and the hail and the fire, and I will send you forth, and you shall remain no longer. And Moses said to him, When I shall have departed from the city, I will stretch out my hands to the Lord, and the thunderings shall cease, and the hail and the rain shall be no longer, that you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But as for you and your servants, I know that you have not yet feared the Lord. And the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was advanced, and the flax was seeding. But the wheat and the rye were not struck, for they were late. And Moses went forth from Pharaoh out of the city, and stretched out his hands to the Lord. And the thunders ceased, and the hail, and the rain did not drop on the earth. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders ceased, he continued to sin. And he hardened his heart, and the heart of his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not send forth the children of Israel, as the Lord said to Moses. Chapter 10. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that these signs may come upon them, in order that you may relate in the ears of your children, and to your children's children, in how many things I have mocked the Egyptians, and my wonders which I wrought amongst them. And you shall know that I am the Lord. And Moses and Aaron went in before Pharaoh, and they said to him, These things says the Lord God of the Hebrews, How long do you refuse to reverence me? Send my people away, that they may serve me. But if you will not send my people away, behold, at this hour tomorrow I will bring an abundance of locusts upon all your coasts, and they shall cover the face of the earth, and you shall not be able to see the earth. And they shall devour all that is left of the abundance of the earth, which the hail has left you, and shall devour every tree that grows for you on the land. And your houses shall be filled, and the houses of your servants, and all the houses in all the land of the Egyptians, things which your fathers have never seen, nor their forefathers, from the day that they were upon the earth until this day. And Moses turned away and departed from Pharaoh. And the servants of Pharaoh say to him, How long shall this be a snare to us? Send away the men, that they may serve their God. Will you know that Egypt is destroyed? And they brought back both Moses and Aaron to Pharaoh. And he said to them, Go and serve the Lord your God. But who are they that are going with you? And Moses said, We will go with the young and the old, with our sons and daughters, and sheep and oxen, for it is a feast of the Lord. And he said to them, So let the Lord be with you. As I will send you away, must I send away you store also? See that evil is attached to you. Not so, but let the men go and serve God, for this you yourselves seek. And they cast them out from the presence of Pharaoh. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt, and let the locusts come up on the land, and it shall devour every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees, which the hail left. And Moses lifted up his rod towards heaven, And the Lord brought a south wind upon the earth all that day and all that night. The morning dawned, and the south wind brought up the locusts, and brought them up over all the land of Egypt. And they rested in very great abundance over all the borders of Egypt. Before them there were not such locusts, neither after them shall there be. And they covered the face of the earth, and the land was wasted, and they devoured all the herbage of the land, and all the fruit of the trees, which was left by the hail. There was no green thing left on the trees, nor on all the herbage of the field, in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh hasted to call Moses and Aaron, saying, I have sinned before the Lord your God, and against you. Pardon therefore my sin yet this time, and pray to the Lord your God, and let him take away from me this death. And Moses went forth from Pharaoh, and prayed to God. And the Lord brought in the opposite direction a strong wind from the sea, and took up the locusts, and cast them into the Red Sea. And there was not one locust left in all the land of Egypt. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not send away the children of Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand to heaven, and let there be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness that may be felt. And Moses stretched out his hand to heaven, and there was darkness very black, even a storm over all the land of Egypt 3 days. And for 3 days no man saw his brother, and no man rose up from his bed for 3 days. But all the children of Israel had light in all the places where they were. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron, saying, Go, serve the Lord your God, only leave your sheep and your oxen, and let your store depart with you. And Moses said, Nay, but you shall give to us whole burnt offerings and sacrifices, which we will sacrifice to the Lord our God. And our cattle shall go with us, and we will not leave a hoof behind, for of them we will take to serve the Lord our God. But we know not in what manner we shall serve the Lord our God, until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh says, Depart from me, beware of seeing my face again, for in what day you shall appear before me, you shall die. And Moses says, You have said, I will not appear in your presence again. Chapter 11. And the Lord said to Moses, I will yet bring one plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, and after that he will send you forth thence. And whenever he sends you forth with everything, he will indeed drive you out. Speak therefore secretly in the ears of the people, and let every one ask of his neighbor jewels of silver and gold and raiment. And the Lord gave his people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and they lent to them. And the man Moses was very great before the Egyptians, and before Pharaoh, and before his servants. And Moses said, These things says the Lord, About midnight I go forth into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits on the throne, even to the firstborn of the woman servant that is by the mill, and to the firstborn of all cattle. And there shall be a great cry through all the land of Egypt, such as has not been, and such shall not be repeated any more. But amongst all the children of Israel shall not a dog snarl with his tongue, either at man or beast, that you may know how wide a distinction the Lord will make between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down to me, and do me reverence, saying, Go forth, you and all the people over whom you preside, and afterwards I will go forth. And Moses went forth from Pharaoh with wrath. And the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, that I may greatly multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron wrought all these signs and wonders in the land of Egypt before Pharaoh. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not listen to send forth the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Chapter 12. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be to you the beginning of months. It is the first to you amongst the months of the year. Speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month let them take each man a lamb according to the houses of their families, every man a lamb for his household. And if they be few in a household, so that there are not enough for the lamb, he shall take with himself his neighbor that lives near to him. As to the number of souls, every one according to that which suffices him shall make a reckoning for the lamb. It shall be to you a lamb unblemished, a male of a year old. You shall take it of the lambs and the kids, and it shall be kept by you till the 14th of this month. And all the multitude of the congregation of the children of Israel shall kill it towards evening. And they shall take of the blood, and shall put it on the 2 doorposts, and on the lintel, in the houses in whichsoever they shall eat them. And they shall eat the flesh in this night roast with fire. And they shall eat unleavened bread with bitter herbs. You shall not eat of it raw nor sodden in water, but only roast with fire, the head with the feet and the appurtenances. Nothing shall be left of it till the morning, and a bone of it you shall not break. But that which is left of it till the morning you shall burn with fire, and thus shall you eat it. your loins girded, and your sandals on your feet, and your staves in your hands, and you shall eat it in haste. It is a Passover to the Lord. And I will go throughout the land of Egypt in that night, and will strike every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt will I execute vengeance. I am the Lord, and the blood shall be for a sign to you on the houses in which you are. And I will see the blood, and will protect you, and there shall not be on you the plague of destruction, when I strike in the land of Egypt. And this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord through all your generations. You shall keep it a feast for a perpetual ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. And from the first day you shall utterly remove leaven from your houses. Whoever shall eat leaven, that soul shall be utterly destroyed from Israel, from the first day until the 7th day. And the first day shall be called holy, and the 7th day shall be a holy convocation to you. You shall do no servile work on them, only as many things as will necessarily be done by every soul. This only shall be done by you. And you shall keep this commandment, for on this day will I bring out your force out of the land of Egypt, and you shall make this day a perpetual ordinance for you throughout your generations. Beginning the 14th day of the first month, you shall eat unleavened bread from evening till the 21st day of the month, till evening. 7 days leaven shall not be found in your houses. Whoever shall eat anything leavened, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, both amongst the occupiers of the land and the original inhabitants. You shall eat nothing leavened, but in every habitation of yours you shall eat unleavened bread. And Moses called all the elders of the children of Israel, and said to them, Go away and take to yourselves a lamb according to your kindred, and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and having dipped it into some of the blood that is by the door, you shall touch the lintel, and shall put it upon both doorposts, even of the blood which is by the door. But you shall not go out every one from the door of his house till the morning. And the Lord shall pass by to strike the Egyptians, and shall see the blood upon the lintel, and upon both the doorposts. And the Lord shall pass by the door, and shall not suffer the destroyer to enter into your houses to strike you. And keep you this thing as an ordinance for yourself and for your children forever. And if you should enter into the land, which the Lord shall give you, as he has spoken, keep this service. And it shall come to pass, if your sons say to you, What is this service? That you shall say to them, This Passover is a sacrifice to the Lord, as he defended the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians, but delivered our houses. And the people bowed and worshipped. And the children of Israel departed and did as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the captive maid in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all cattle. And Pharaoh rose up by night, and his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in all the land of Egypt, for there was not a house in which there was not one dead. And Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron by night, and said to them, Rise and depart from my people, both you and the children of Israel. Go and serve the Lord your God, even as you say, and take with you your sheep and your oxen. Bless me also, I pray you. And the Egyptians constrained the people, so that they cast them out of the land with haste, for they said, We all shall die. And the people took their dough before their meal was leavened, bound up as it was in their garments, on their shoulders. And the children of Israel did as Moses commanded them. And they asked of the Egyptians articles of silver and gold and apparel. And the Lord gave his people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and they lent to them. And they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel departed from Rameses to Succoth, to the full number of 600,000 footmen, even men, besides the baggage. And a great mixed company went up with them, and sheep and oxen and very much cattle. And they baked the dough which they brought out of Egypt, unleavened cakes, for it had not been leavened. For the Egyptians cast them out, and they could not remain, neither did they prepare provision for themselves for the journey. And the sojourning of the children of Israel, while they sojourned in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, was 430 years. And it came to pass after the 430 years, all the forces of the Lord came forth out of the land of Egypt by night. It is a watch kept to the Lord, so that he should bring them out of the land of Egypt. That very night is a watch kept to the Lord, so that it should be to all the children of Israel to their generations. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, This is the law of the Passover. No stranger shall eat of it. And every slave or servant bought with money, him you shall circumcise, and then shall he eat of it. A sojourner or hireling shall not eat of it. In one house shall it be eaten, and you shall not carry of the flesh out from the house. and a bone of it you shall not break. All the congregation of the children of Israel shall keep it. And if any proselyte shall come to you to keep the Passover to the Lord, you shall circumcise every male of him, and then shall he approach to sacrifice it, and he shall be even as the original inhabitant of the land. No uncircumcised person shall eat of it. There shall be one law to the native, and to the proselyte coming amongst you. And the children of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron for them, so they did. And it came to pass in that day that the Lord brought out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt with their forces. Chapter 13. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Sanctify to me every firstborn, first produced, opening every womb amongst the children of Israel, both of man and beast. It is mine. And Moses said to the people, Remember this day, in which you came forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for with a strong hand the Lord brought you forth thence. And leaven shall not be eaten, for on this day you go forth in the month of new corn. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord your God shall have brought you into the land of the Canaanites, and the Chettites, and Amorites, and Evites, and Jebusites, and Girgashites, and Perizzites, which he sware to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall perform this service in this month. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day is a feast to the Lord. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Nothing leavened shall be seen with you, neither shall you have leaven in all your borders. And you shall tell your son in that day, saying, Therefore the Lord dealt thus with me, as I was going out of Egypt. And it shall be to you a sign upon your hand, and a memorial before your eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord God brought you out of Egypt. And you must preserve this law according to the times of the seasons, from year to year. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord your God shall bring you into the land of the Canaanites, as he sware to your fathers, and shall give it you, that you shall set apart every offspring opening the womb, the males to the Lord, every one that opens the womb out of the herds or amongst your cattle, as many as you shall have. You shall sanctify the males to the Lord. Every offspring opening the womb of the ass you shall change for a sheep, and if you will not change it, you shall redeem it. Every firstborn of man of your sons shall you redeem. And if your son should ask you hereafter, saying, What is this? Then you shall say to him, With a strong hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And when Pharaoh hardened his heart so as not to send us away, he killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore do I sacrifice every offspring that opens the womb, the males to the Lord, and every firstborn of my sons I will redeem. And it shall be for a sign upon your hand, and immovable before your eyes, for with a strong hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. And when Pharaoh sent forth the people, God led them not by the way of the land of the Philistines, because it was near. For God said, Lest at any time the people repent when they see war, and return to Egypt. And God led the people round by the way to the wilderness, to the Red Sea. And in the 5th generation the children of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had solemnly adjured the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones hence with you. And the children of Israel departed from Succoth, and encamped in Otham by the wilderness. And God led them, in the day by a pillar of cloud, to show them the way, and in the night by a pillar of fire. And the pillar of cloud failed not by day, nor the pillar of fire by night, before all the people. Chapter 14. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and let them turn and encamp before the village, between Magdal and the sea, opposite Baal-zephon. Before them shall you encamp by the sea. And Pharaoh will say to his people, As for these children of Israel, they are wandering in the land, for the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden the heart of Pharaoh, and he shall pursue after them. And I will be glorified in Pharaoh, and in all his host, and all the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. And it was reported to the king of the Egyptians that the people had fled. And the heart of Pharaoh was turned, and that of his servants against the people. And they said, What is this that we have done, to let the children of Israel go, so that they should not serve us? So Pharaoh yoked his chariots, and led off all his people with himself, having also taken 600 chosen chariots, and all the cavalry of the Egyptians, and rulers over all. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and of his servants, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went forth with a high hand, and the Egyptians pursued after them, and found them encamped by the sea. And all the cavalry and the chariots of Pharaoh, and the horsemen and his host were before the village, over against Baal-zephon. And Pharaoh approached, and the children of Israel having looked up, saw, and the Egyptians encamped behind them. And they were very greatly terrified. And the children of Israel cried to the Lord, and said to Moses, Because there are no graves in the land of Egypt, have you brought us forth to kill us in the wilderness? What is this that you have done to us, having brought us out of Egypt? Is not this the word which we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, Let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians? For it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in this wilderness. And Moses said to the people, Be of good courage, stand and see the salvation which is from the Lord, which he will work for us this day. For as you have seen the Egyptians today, you shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said to Moses, Why cry you to me? Speak to the children of Israel, and let them proceed. And do you lift up your rod, and stretch forth your hand over the sea, and divide it, and let the children of Israel enter into the midst of the sea on the dry land. And behold, I will harden the heart of Pharaoh and of all the Egyptians, and they shall go in after them. And I will be glorified upon Pharaoh, and on all his host, and on his chariots and his horses. And all the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I am glorified upon Pharaoh and upon his chariots and his horses. And the angel of God that went before the camp of the children of Israel removed and went behind. And the pillar of the cloud also removed from before them and stood behind them. And it went between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel, and stood. And there was darkness and blackness, and the night passed, and they came not near to one another during the whole night. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea. And the Lord carried back the sea with a strong south wind all the night, and made the sea dry, and the water was divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry land. And the water of it was a wall on the right hand and a wall on the left. And the Egyptians pursued them and went in after them, and every horse of Pharaoh, and his chariots, and his horsemen, into the midst of the sea. And it came to pass in the morning watch that the Lord looked forth on the camp of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and troubled the camp of the Egyptians, and bound the axle trees of their chariots, and caused them to go with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said to Moses, Stretch forth your hand over the sea, and let the water be turned back to its place, and let it cover the Egyptians coming both upon the chariots and the riders. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the water returned to its place towards day. And the Egyptians fled from the water, and the Lord shook off the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the water returned and covered the chariots and the riders, and all the forces of Pharaoh, who entered after them into the sea. And there was not left of them even one. But the children of Israel went along dry land in the midst of the sea, and the water was to them a wall on the right hand, and a wall on the left. So the Lord delivered Israel in that day from the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead by the shore of the sea. And Israel saw the mighty hand, the things which the Lord did to the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord, and they believed God and Moses his servant. Chapter 15. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song to God, and spoke, saying, Let us sing to the Lord, for he is very greatly glorified. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. He was to me a helper and protector for salvation. This is my God, and I will glorify him. My father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord bringing wars to nothing. The Lord is his name. He has cast the chariots of Pharaoh and his host into the sea, the chosen mounted captains. They were swallowed up in the Red Sea. He covered them with the sea. They sank to the depth like a stone. Your right hand, O God, has been glorified in strength. Your right hand, O God, has broken the enemies. And in the abundance of your glory you have broken the adversaries to pieces. You sent forth your wrath, it devoured them as stubble. And by the breath of your anger the water parted asunder. The waters were congealed as a wall. The waves were congealed in the midst of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoils. I will satisfy my soul, I will destroy with my sword, my hand shall have dominion. You sent forth your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty water. Who is like to you amongst the gods, O Lord? Who is like to you? Glorified in holiness, marvelous in glories, doing wonders. You stretched forth your right hand, the earth swallowed them up. You have guided in your righteousness this your people whom you have redeemed. By your strength you have called them into your holy resting place. The nations heard and were angry. Pangs have seized on the dwellers amongst the Philistines. Then the princes of Edom and the chiefs of the Moabites hasted. Trembling took hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Chanaan melted away. Let trembling and fear fall upon them. By the greatness of your arm, let them become as stone. Till your people pass over, O Lord, till this your people pass over, whom you have purchased. Bring them in and plant them in the mountain of their inheritance, in your prepared habitation, which you, O Lord, have prepared. The sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have made ready. The Lord reigns forever and ever and ever. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with the chariots and horsemen into the sea. And the Lord brought upon them the water of the sea, but the children of Israel walked through dry land in the midst of the sea. And Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, having taken a timbrel in her hand, then there went forth all the women after her with timbrels and dances. And Miriam led them, saying, Let us sing to the Lord, for he has been very greatly glorified. The horse and rider has he cast into the sea. So Moses brought up the children of Israel from the Red Sea, and brought them into the wilderness of Sur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness, and found no water to drink. And they came to Marah, and could not drink of Marah, for it was bitter. Therefore he named the name of that place Bitterness. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And Moses cried to the Lord. And the Lord showed him a tree, and he cast it into the water, and the water was sweetened. There he established to him ordinances and judgments. And there he proved him, and said, If you will indeed hear the voice of the Lord your God, and do things pleasing before him, and will listen to his commands, and keep all his ordinances, no disease which I have brought upon the Egyptians will I bring upon you, for I am the Lord your God that heals you. And they came to Elim, and there were there 12 fountains of water, and 70 stems of palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. Chapter 16. And they departed from Elim. And all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinah. And on the 15th day, in the 2nd month after their departure from the land of Egypt, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron. And the children of Israel said to them, Would we had died struck by the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and ate bread to satiety. For you have brought us out into this wilderness, to kill all this congregation with hunger. And the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I will rain bread upon you out of heaven. And the people shall go forth, and they shall gather their daily portion for the day, that I may try them whether they will walk in my law or not. And it shall come to pass on the 6th day that they shall prepare whatever they have brought in. And it shall be double of what they shall have gathered for the day, daily. And Moses and Aaron said to all the congregation of the children of Israel, At even you shall know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, inasmuch as he hears your murmuring against God. And who are we, that you continue to murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be when the Lord gives you in the evening flesh to eat, and bread in the morning to satiety, because the Lord has heard your murmuring, which you murmur against us. And what are we? For your murmuring is not against us, but against God. And Moses said to Aaron, Say to all the congregation of the children of Israel, Come near before God, for he has heard your murmuring. And when Aaron spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and they turned towards the wilderness, then the glory of the Lord appeared in a cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the murmuring of the children of Israel. Speak to them, saying, Towards evening you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall be satisfied with bread, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it was evening, and quails came up and covered the camp. In the morning it came to pass as the dew ceased round about the camp, that, behold, on the face of the wilderness was a small thing like white coriander seed, as frost upon the earth. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, What is this? For they knew not what it was. And Moses said to them, This is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. This is that which the Lord has appointed. Gather of it each man for his family, a homer for each person, according to the number of your souls. Gather each of you with his fellow lodgers. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered some much and some less. And having measured the homer full, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that had gathered less had no lack. Each gathered according to the need of those who belonged to him. And Moses said to them, Let no man leave of it till the morning. But they did not listen to Moses, but some left of it till the morning. And it bred worms and stank. And Moses was irritated with them. And they gathered it every morning, each man what he needed. And when the sun waxed hot it melted. And it came to pass on the 6th day, they gathered double what was needed, 2 homers for 1 man. And all the chiefs of the synagogue went in and reported it to Moses. And Moses said to them, Is not this the word which the Lord spoke? Tomorrow is the Sabbath, a holy rest to the Lord. Bake that you will bake, and seethe that you will seethe, and all that is over leave to be laid by for the morrow. And they left of it till the morning, as Moses commanded them. And it stank not, neither was there a worm in it. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. It shall not be found in the plain. 6 days you shall gather it, and on the 7th day is a Sabbath, for there shall be none on that day. And it came to pass on the 7th day that some of the people went forth to gather, and found none. And the Lord said to Moses, How long are you unwilling to listen to my commands and my law? See, for the Lord has given you this day as the Sabbath. Therefore he has given you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. You shall sit each of you in your houses. Let no one go forth from his place on the 7th day. And the people kept Sabbath on the 7th day. And the children of Israel called the name of it man. And it was as white coriander seed, and the taste of it as a wafer with honey. And Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord has commanded. Fill an homer with manna, to be laid up for your generations, that they may see the bread which you ate in the wilderness, when the Lord led you forth out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, Take a golden pot, and cast into it 1 full homer of manna, and you shall lay it up before God, to be kept for your generations, as the Lord commanded Moses. And Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel ate manna 40 years, until they came to the land they ate the manna, until they came to the region of Phoenicia. Now the homer was the 10th part of 3 measures. Chapter 17. And all the congregation of the children of Israel departed from the wilderness of Sin, according to their encampments, by the word of the Lord. And they encamped in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. And the people reviled Moses, saying, Give us water, that we may drink. And Moses said to them, Why do you revile me, and why tempt you the Lord? And the people thirsted there for water. And there the people murmured against Moses, saying, Why is this? Have you brought us up out of Egypt to kill us, and our children and our cattle with thirst? And Moses cried to the Lord, saying, What shall I do to this people? Yet a little while, and they will stone me. And the Lord said to Moses, Go before this people, and take to yourself of the elders of the people. And the rod with which you struck the river, take in your hand, and you shall go. Behold, I stand there before you come, on the rock in Choreb, and you shall strike the rock, and water shall come out from it, and the people shall drink. And Moses did so before the sons of Israel. And he called the name of that place, Temptation and Reviling, because of the reviling of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord amongst us or not? And Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, Choose out for yourself mighty men, and go forth and set the army in array against Amalek tomorrow. And, behold, I shall stand on the top of the hill, and the rod of God will be in my hand. And Joshua did as Moses said to him, and he went out and set the army in array against Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass, when Moses lifted up his hands, Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hands, Amalek prevailed. But the hands of Moses were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat upon it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on this side and the other on that. And the hands of Moses were supported till the going down of the sun. And Joshua routed Amalek and all his people with the slaughter of the sword. And the Lord said to Moses, Write this for a memorial in a book, and speak this in the ears of Joshua. For I will utterly blot out the memorial of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar to the Lord, and called the name of it, The Lord my refuge. For with a secret hand the Lord wages war upon Amalek to all generations. Chapter 18. And Jotham the priest of Madian, the father-in-law of Moses, heard of all that the Lord did to his people Israel. For the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt. And Jotham the father-in-law of Moses took Sephora the wife of Moses after she had been sent away, and her 2 sons. The name of the one was Gersom, his father, saying, I was a sojourner in a strange land. And the name of the second Eliezer, saying, For the God of my father is my helper, and he has rescued me out of the hand of Pharaoh. And Jotham the father-in-law of Moses, and his sons and his wife, went forth to Moses into the wilderness, where he encamped on the mount of God. And it was told Moses, saying, Behold, your father-in-law Jotham is coming to you, and your wife and 2 sons with him. And Moses went forth to meet his father-in-law, and did him reverence, and kissed him, and they embraced each other, and he brought them into the tent. And Moses related to his father-in-law all things that the Lord did to Pharaoh and all the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the labor that had befallen them in the way, and that the Lord had rescued them out of the hand of Pharaoh, and out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jotham was amazed at all the good things which the Lord did to them, forasmuch as he rescued them out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh. And Jotham said, Blessed be the Lord, because he has rescued them out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh. Now know I that the Lord is great above all gods, because of this, wherein they attacked them. And Jotham the father-in-law of Moses took whole burnt offerings and sacrifices for God. For Aaron and all the elders of Israel came to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moses before God. And it came to pass after the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and all the people stood by Moses from morning till evening. And Jotham, having seen all that Moses did to the people, says, What is this that you do to the people? Therefore sit you alone, and all the people stand by you from morning till evening. And Moses says to his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to seek judgment from God. For whenever there is a dispute amongst them, and they come to me, I give judgment upon each, and I teach them the ordinances of God and his law. And the father-in-law of Moses said to him, You do not this thing rightly, you will wear away with intolerable weariness, both those and all this people which is with you. This thing is hard, you will not be able to endure it yourself alone. Now then listen to me, and I will advise you, and God shall be with you. You to the people in the things pertaining to God, and you shall bring their matters to God. And you shall testify to them the ordinances of God and his law, and you shall show to them the ways in which they shall walk, and the works which they shall do. And do you look out for yourself out of all the people able men, fearing God, righteous men, hating pride. And you shall set over the people captains of thousands, and captains of hundreds, and captains of 50s, and captains of 10s. And they shall judge the people at all times. And the too burdensome matter they shall bring to you, but they shall judge the smaller cases. So they shall relieve you and help you. If you will do this thing, God shall strengthen you, and you shall be able to attend, and all this people shall come with peace into their own place. And Moses listened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did whatever he said to him. And Moses chose out able men out of all Israel, and he made them captains of thousands, and captains of hundreds, and captains of 50s, and captains of 10s over the people. And they judged the people at all times. And every too burdensome matter they brought to Moses, but every light matter they judged themselves. And Moses dismissed his father-in-law, and he returned to his own land. Chapter 19. And in the 3rd month of the departure of the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, on the same day, they came into the wilderness of Sinai. And they departed from Rephidim, and came into the wilderness of Sinai, and there Israel encamped before the mountain. And Moses went up to the mount of God. And God called him out of the mountain, saying, These things shall you say to the house of Jacob, and you shall report them to the children of Israel. You have seen all that I have done to the Egyptians. And I took you up as upon eagle's wings, and I brought you near to myself. And now if you will indeed hear my voice, and keep my covenant, you shall be to me a peculiar people above all nations. For the whole earth is mine. And you shall be to me a royal priesthood and a holy nation. These words shall you speak to the children of Israel. And Moses came and called the elders of the people, and he set before them all these words, which God appointed them. And all the people answered with one accord, and said, All things that God has spoken we will do and listen to. And Moses reported these words to God. And the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I come to you in a pillar of a cloud, that the people may hear me speaking to you, and may believe you forever. And Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, Go down and solemnly charge the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments, and let them be ready against the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day the Lord will descend upon Mount Sinai before all the people. And you shall separate the people round about, saying, Take heed to yourselves that you go not up into the mountain, nor touch any part of it. Every one that touches the mountain shall surely die. A hand shall not touch it. For every one that touches shall be stoned with stones or shot through with a dart. Whether beast or whether man, it shall not live. When the voices and trumpets and cloud depart from off the mountain, they shall come up on the mountain. And Moses went down from the mountain to the people, and sanctified them, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, Be ready, for 3 days come not near to a woman. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, as the morning drew near, there were voices and lightnings and a dark cloud on Mount Sinai. The voice of the trumpet sounded loud, and all the people in the camp trembled. And Moses led the people forth out of the camp to meet God, and they stood by under the camp. The Mount of Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because God had descended upon it in fire. And the smoke went up as the smoke of a furnace, and the people were exceedingly amazed. And the sounds of the trumpet were waxing very much louder. Moses spoke, and God answered him with a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And God spoke to Moses, saying, Go down, and solemnly charge the people, lest at any time they draw near to God to gaze, and a multitude of them fall. And let the priests that draw near to the Lord God sanctify themselves, destroy some of them. And Moses said to God, The people will not be able to approach to the mount of Sinai, for you have solemnly charged us, saying, Set bounds to the mountain and sanctify it. And the Lord said to him, Go, descend, and come up you and Aaron with you, but let not the priests. And the people forced their way to come up to God, lest the Lord destroy some of them. And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Chapter 20. And the Lord spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods beside me. You shall not make to yourself an idol, nor likeness of anything, whatever things are in the heaven above, and whatever are in the earth beneath, and whatever are in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I am the Lord your God, a jealous God, recompensing the sins of the fathers upon the children, to the third and fourth generation to them that hate me, and bestowing mercy on them that love me to thousands of them, and on them that keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord your God will not acquit him that takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, and shall perform all your work. But on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your servant, nor your maidservant, your ox, nor your ass, nor any cattle of your, nor the stranger that sojourns with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, and the sea and all things in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the seventh day, and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that it may be well with you, and that you may live long on the good land, which the Lord your God gives to you. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not kill. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, nor his field, nor his servant, nor his maid, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor any of his cattle, nor whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people perceived the thundering, and the flashes, and the voice of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And all the people feared and stood afar off, and said to Moses, Speak you to us, and let not God speak to us, lest we die. And Moses says to them, Be of good courage, for God is come to you to try you, that his fear may be amongst you, that you sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses went into the darkness where God was. And the Lord said to Moses, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and you shall report it to the children of Israel, You have seen that I have spoken to you from heaven. You shall not make to yourselves gods of silver, and gods of gold you shall not make to yourselves. You shall make to me an altar of earth, and upon it you shall sacrifice your whole burnt offerings, and your peace offerings, and your sheep and your calves in every place where I shall record my name. And I will come to you and bless you. And if you will make to me an altar of stones, you shall not build them hewn stones, for you have lifted up your tool upon them, and they are defiled. You shall not go up to my altar by steps, that you may not uncover your nakedness upon it. Chapter 22. And if one steal an ox or a sheep, and kill it or sell it, he shall pay 5 calves for a calf, and 4 sheep for a sheep. And if the thief be found in the breach made by himself, and be struck and die, there shall not be blood shed for him. But if the sun be risen upon him, he is guilty, he shall die instead. And if a thief have nothing, let him be sold in compensation for what he has stolen. And if the thing stolen be left and be in his hand alive, whether ox or sheep, he shall restore them twofold. And if any one should feed down a field or a vineyard, and should send in his beast to feed down another field, he shall make compensation of his own field according to his produce. And if he shall have fed down the whole field, he shall pay for compensation the best of his own field and the best of his vineyard. And if fire have gone forth and caught thorns, and should also set on fire threshing floors or ears of corn or a field, he that kindled the fire shall make compensation. And if any one give to his neighbor money or goods to keep, and they be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, he shall repay double. But if the thief be not found, the master of the house shall come forward before God, and shall swear that surely he has not wrought wickedly in regard of any part of his neighbor's deposit, according to every injury alleged, both concerning a calf, and an ass, and a sheep, and a garment, and every alleged loss, whatever in fact it may be. The judgment of both shall proceed before God, and he that is convicted by God shall repay to his neighbor double. And if any one give to his neighbor to keep a calf or sheep or any beast, and it be wounded or die or be taken, and no one know. An oath of God shall be between both, each swearing that he has surely not at all been guilty in the matter of his neighbor's deposit. And so his master shall hold him guiltless, and he shall not make compensation. And if it be stolen from him, he shall make compensation to the owner. And if it be seized of beasts, he shall bring him to witness the prey, and he shall not make compensation. And if any one borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be wounded or die or be carried away, and the owner of it be not with it, he shall make compensation. But if the owner be with it, he shall not make compensation. But if it be a hired thing, there shall be a compensation to him instead of his hire. And if any one deceive a virgin that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her for a wife to himself. And if her father positively refuse, and will not consent to give her to him for a wife, he shall pay compensation to her father according to the amount of the dowry of virgins. You shall not save the lives of sorcerers. Every one that lies with a beast you shall surely put to death. He that sacrifices to any gods but to the Lord alone shall be destroyed by death. And you shall not hurt a stranger, nor afflict him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall hurt no widow or orphan. And if you should afflict them by ill treatment, and they should cry aloud to me, I will surely hear their voice, and I will be very angry, and will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children orphans. And if you should lend money to your poor brother who is by you, you shall not be hard upon him, you shall not exact usury of him. And if you take your neighbor's garment for a pledge, you shall restore it to him before sunset. For this is his clothing, this is the only covering of his nakedness. Wherein shall he sleep? If then he shall cry to me, I will listen to him, for I am merciful. You shall not revile the gods, nor speak ill of the ruler of your people. You shall not keep back the first fruits of your threshing floor and press. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. So shall you do with your calf and your sheep and your ass. 7 days shall it be under the mother, and the 8th day you shall give it to me. And you shall be holy men to me. And you shall not eat flesh taken of beasts, you shall cast it to the dog. Chapter 23. You shall not receive a vain report. You shall not agree with the unjust man to become an unjust witness. You shall not associate with the multitude for evil. You shall not join yourself with a multitude to turn aside with the majority so as to shut out judgment. And you shall not spare a poor man in judgment. And if you meet your enemy's ox or his ass going astray, you shall turn them back and restore them to him. And if you see your enemy's ass fallen under its burden, you shall not pass by it, but shall help to raise it with him. You shall not wrest the sentence of the poor in his judgment. You shall abstain from every unjust thing. You shall not kill the innocent and just. And you shall not justify the wicked for gifts. And you shall not receive gifts, for gifts blind the eyes of the seeing, and corrupt just words. And you shall not afflict a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger. For you were yourselves strangers in the land of Egypt. 6 years you shall sow your land, and gather in the fruits of it. But in the 7th year you shall let it rest, and leave it, and the poor of your nation shall feed, and the wild beasts of the field shall eat that which remains. Thus shall you do to your vineyard and to your olive yard. 6 days shall you do your works, and on the 7th day there shall be rest, that your ox and your ass may rest, and that the son of your maidservant and the stranger may be refreshed. Observe all things whatever I have commanded you. And you shall make no mention of the name of other gods, neither shall they be heard out of your mouth. Keep you a feast to me 3 times in the year. Take heed to keep the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I charged you at the season of the month of new corn, for in it you came out of Egypt. You shall not appear before me empty. And you shall keep the feast of the harvest of first fruits of your labors, whatever you shall have sown in your field, and the feast of completion at the end of the year, and the gathering in of your fruits out of your field. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before the Lord your God. For when I shall have cast out the nations from before you, and shall have widened your borders, you shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither must the fat of my feast abide till the morning. You shall bring the first offerings of the first fruits of your land into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not see the lamb in its mother's milk. And, behold, I send my angel before your face, that he may keep you in the way, that he may bring you into the land which I have prepared for you. Take heed to yourself and listen to him, and disobey him not. For he will not give way to you, for my name is on him. If you will indeed hear my voice, and if you will do all the things I shall charge you with, and keep my covenant, you shall be to me a peculiar people above all nations, for the whole earth is mine. And you shall be to me a royal priesthood, and a holy nation. These words shall you speak to the children of Israel. If you shall indeed hear my voice, and do all the things I shall tell you, I will be an enemy to your enemies, and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angels shall go as your leader, and shall bring you to the Amorite, and Chetite, and Pharisite, and Canaanite, and Girgasite, and Evite, and Jebusite, and I will destroy them. You shall not worship their gods, nor serve them. You shall not do according to their works, but shall utterly destroy them, and break to pieces their pillars. And you shall serve the Lord your God, and I will bless your bread and your wine and your water, and I will turn away sickness from you. There shall not be on your land one that is impotent or barren. I will surely fulfill the number of your days, and I will send terror before you, and I will strike with amazement all the nations to which you shall come, and I will make all your enemies to flee. And I will send hornets before you, and you shall cast out the Amorites and the Evites, and the Canaanites and the Chetites from you. I will not cast them out in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against you. By little and little I will cast them out from before you, until you shall be increased and inherit the earth. And I will set your borders from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the great river Euphrates. And I will give into your hand those that dwell in the land, and will cast them out from you. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods, and they shall not dwell in your land, lest they cause you to sin against me. For if you should serve their gods, these will be an offense to you. Chapter 24. And to Moses he said, Go up to the Lord, you and Aaron and Nadab and Abiud, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they shall worship the Lord from a distance, and Moses alone shall draw near to God. And they shall not draw near, and the people shall not come up with them. And Moses went in and related to the people all the words of God and the ordinances. And all the people answered with one voice, saying, All the words which the Lord has spoken, we will do and be obedient. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord. And Moses rose up early in the morning, and built an altar under the mountain, and set up 12 stones for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent forth the young men of the children of Israel, and they offered whole burnt offerings, and they sacrificed young calves as a peace offering to God. And Moses took half the blood and poured it into bowls, and half the blood he poured out upon the altar. And he took the book of the covenant, and read it in the ears of the people. And they said, All things whatever the Lord has spoken we will do and listen therein. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it upon the people, and said, Behold the blood of the covenant, which the Lord has made with you concerning all these words. And Moses went up, and Aaron, and Nadab and Abiud, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the place where the God of Israel stood, and under his feet was as it were a work of sapphire slabs, and as it were the appearance of the firmament of heaven in its purity. And of the chosen ones of Israel there was not even one missing. And they appeared in the place of God, and did eat and drink. And the Lord said to Moses, Come up to me into the mountain, and be there. And I will give you the tables of stone, the law and the commandments, which I have written to give them laws. And Moses rose up and Joshua his attendant. And they went up into the mount of God. And to the elders they said, Rest there till we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have a cause to be tried, let them go to them. And Moses and Joshua went up to the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. And the glory of God came down upon the Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the Lord called Moses on the 7th day out of the midst of the cloud. And the appearance of the glory of the Lord was as burning fire on the top of the mountain, before the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, and went up to the mountain, and was there in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Chapter 25. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and take first fruits of all, who may be disposed in their heart to give. And you shall take my first fruits, and this is the offering which you shall take of them: gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and double scarlet and fine spun linen and goat's hair and ram's skins dyed red and blue skins and incorruptible wood and oil for the light, incense for anointing oil, and for the composition of incense, and sardius stones, and stones for the carved work of the breastplate and the full-length robe. And you shall make me a sanctuary, and I will appear amongst you. And you shall make for me according to all things which I show you in the mountain, even the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all its furniture, so shall you make it. And you shall make the ark of testimony of incorruptible wood, the length of 2 cubits and a half, and the breadth of 1 cubit and a half, and the height of 1 cubit and a half. And you shall gild it with pure gold, you shall gild it within and without. And you shall make for it golden wreaths twisted round about, and you shall cast for it 4 golden rings. and shall put them on the 4 sides, 2 rings on the one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make staves of incorruptible wood, and shall gild them with gold. And you shall put the staves into the rings on the sides of the ark, to bear the ark with them. The staves shall remain fixed in the rings of the ark. And you shall put into the ark the testimonies which I shall give you. And you shall make a propitiatory, a lid of pure gold, the length of 2 cubits and a half, and the breadth of 1 cubit and a half. And you shall make 2 cherubs graven in gold, and you shall put them on both sides of the propitiatory. They shall be made, 1 cherub on this side, and another cherub on the other side of the propitiatory. And you shall make the 2 cherubs on the 2 sides. The cherubs shall stretch forth their wings above, overshadowing the propitiatory with their wings, and their faces shall be towards each other. The faces of the cherubs shall be towards the propitiatory. And you shall set the propitiatory on the ark above. And you shall put into the ark the testimonies which I shall give you. And I will make myself known to you from thence, and I will speak to you above the propitiatory between the 2 cherubs, which are upon the ark of testimony, even in all things which I shall charge you concerning the children of Israel. And you shall make a golden table of pure gold, in length 2 cubits, and in breadth 1 cubit, and in height 1 cubit and a half. And you shall make for it golden wreaths twisted round about. And you shall make for it a crown of an hand breadth round about. And you shall make a twisted wreath for the crown round about. And you shall make 4 golden rings. And you shall put the 4 rings upon the 4 parts of its feet under the crown. And the rings shall be for bearings for the staves, that they may bear the table with them. And you shall make the staves of incorruptible wood, and you shall gild them with pure gold. And the table shall be borne with them. And you shall make its dishes and its censers, and its bowls, and its cups, with which you shall offer drink offerings. Of pure gold shall you make them. And you shall set upon the table showbread before me continually. And you shall make a candlestick of pure gold. You shall make the candlestick of graven work. Its stem and its branches, and its bowls and its knops and its lilies shall be of 1 piece, and 6 branches proceeding sideways. 3 branches of the candlestick from one side of it, and 3 branches of the candlestick from the other side, and 3 bowls fashioned like almonds, on each branch a knop and a lily. So do the 6 branches proceeding from the candlestick. And in the candlestick 4 bowls fashioned like almonds, in each branch knops and the flowers of the same. A knop under 2 branches out of it, and a knop under 4 branches out of it. So do the 6 branches proceeding from the candlestick. And in the candlestick 4 bowls fashioned like almonds. Let the knops and the branches be of 1 piece, altogether graven of 1 piece of pure gold. And you shall make it 7 lamps. And you shall set on it the lamps, and they shall shine from one front. And you shall make its funnel and its snuff dishes of pure gold. All these articles shall be a talent of pure gold. See, you shall make them according to the pattern showed you in the mount. Chapter 26. And you shall make the tabernacle, 10 curtains of fine linen spun, and blue and purple, and scarlet spun with cherubs. You shall make them with work of a weaver. The length of 1 curtain shall be 28 cubits, and 1 curtain shall be the breadth of 4 cubits. There shall be the same measure to all the curtains, and the 5 curtains shall be joined one to another, and the other 5 curtains shall be closely connected the one with the other. And you shall make for them loops of blue on the edge of 1 curtain, on one side for the coupling, and so shall you make on the edge of the outer curtain for the second coupling. 50 loops shall you make for 1 curtain, and 50 loops shall you make on the part of the curtain answering to the coupling of the second, opposite each other, corresponding to each other at each point. And you shall make 50 golden rings, and you shall join the curtains to each other with the rings, and it shall be 1 tabernacle. And you shall make for a covering of the tabernacle skins with the hair on. You shall make them 11 skins. The length of 1 skin 30 cubits, and the breadth of 1 skin 4 cubits. There shall be the same measure to the 11 skins. And you shall join the 5 skins together, and the 6 skins together. And you shall double the 6th skin in front of the tabernacle. And you shall make 50 loops on the border of 1 skin, which is in the midst for the joinings. And you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the 2nd skin that joins it. And you shall make 50 brazen rings. And you shall join the rings by the loops, and you shall join the skins, and they shall be 1. And you shall fix at the end that which is over in the skins of the tabernacle. The half of the skin that is left shall you fold over, according to the overplus of the skins of the tabernacle. You shall fold it over behind the tabernacle, a cubit on this side, and a cubit on that side of that which remains of the skins, of the length of the skins of the tabernacle. It shall be folding over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and that side, that it may cover it. And you shall make for a covering of the tabernacle rams' skins dyed red, and blue skins as coverings above. And you shall make the posts of the tabernacle of incorruptible wood. Of 10 cubits shall you make one post, and the breadth of one post of 1.5 cubits. 2 joints shall you make in one post, answering the one to the other. So shall you do to all the posts of the tabernacle. And you shall make posts to the tabernacle, 20 posts on the north side. And you shall make to the 20 posts 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets to one post on both its sides, and 2 sockets to the other post on both its sides. And for the next side, towards the south, 20 posts, and their 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets to one post on both its sides, and 2 sockets to the other post on both its sides. And on the back of the tabernacle at the part which is towards the west you shall make 6 posts. And you shall make 2 posts on the corners of the tabernacle behind, and it shall be equal below. They shall be equal towards the same part from the heads to one joining. So shall you make to both the 2 corners, let them be equal. And there shall be 8 posts, and their 16 silver sockets, 2 sockets to one post on both its sides, and 2 sockets to the other post. And you shall make bars of incorruptible wood, 5 to one post on one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars to one post on the second side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars to the hinder posts on the side of the tabernacle towards the sea. And let the bar in the middle between the posts go through from the one side to the other side. And you shall gild the posts with gold. And you shall make golden rings, into which you shall introduce the bars, and you shall gild the bars with gold. And you shall set up the tabernacle according to the pattern showed you in the mount. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet woven, and fine linen spun. You shall make it cherubs in woven work, and you shall set it upon 4 posts of incorruptible wood overlaid with gold. And their tops shall be gold, and their 4 sockets shall be of silver. And you shall put the veil on the posts. And you shall carry in there within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall make a separation for you between the holy and the holy of holies. And you shall screen with the veil the ark of the testimony and the holy of holies. And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the candlestick opposite the table on the south side of the tabernacle. And you shall put the table on the north side of the tabernacle. And you shall make a screen for the door of the tabernacle of blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen spun, the work of the embroiderer. And you shall make for the veil 5 posts, and you shall gild them with gold, and their chapiters shall be gold. And you shall cast for them 5 brazen sockets. Chapter 27. And you shall make an altar of incorruptible wood, of 5 cubits in the length, and 5 cubits in the breadth. The altar shall be square, and the height of it shall be of 3 cubits. And you shall make the horns on the 4 corners. The horns shall be of the same piece, and you shall overlay them with brass. And you shall make a rim for the altar, and its covering, and its cups, and its flesh hooks, and its fire pan, and all its vessels shall you make of brass. And you shall make for it a brazen grate with network. And you shall make for the grate 4 brazen rings under the 4 sides. And you shall put them below under the grate of the altar. And the grate shall extend to the middle of the altar. And you shall make for the altar staves of incorruptible wood. And you shall overlay them with brass. And you shall put the staves into the rings. And let the staves be on the sides of the altar to carry it. You shall make it hollow with boards, according to what was showed you in the mount, so you shall make it. And you shall make a court for the tabernacle, curtains of the court of fine linen spun on the south side, the length of 100 cubits for one side, and their pillars 20, and 20 brazen sockets for them, and their rings and their clasps of silver. Thus shall there be to the side towards the north curtains of 100 cubits in length, and their pillars 20, and their sockets 20 of brass, and the rings and the clasps of the pillars, and their sockets overlaid with silver. And in the breadth of the tabernacle towards the west curtains of 50 cubits. Their pillars 10 and their sockets 10. And in the breadth of the tabernacle towards the south, curtains of 50 cubits. Their pillars 10 and their sockets 10. And the height of the curtains shall be of 50 cubits for the one side of the gate. Their pillars 3 and their sockets 3. And for the second side the height of the curtains shall be of 15 cubits. Their pillars 3 and their sockets 3. And a veil for the door of the court, the height of it of 20 cubits of blue linen, and of purple, and spun scarlet, and of fine linen spun with the art of the embroiderer. Their pillars 4, and their sockets 4. All the pillars of the court round about overlaid with silver, and their chapiters silver, and their brass sockets. And the length of the court shall be 100 cubits on each side, and the breadth 50 on each side, and the height 5 cubits of fine linen spun, and their sockets of brass. And all the furniture and all the instruments and the pins of the court shall be of brass. And do you charge the children of Israel? And let them take for you refined pure olive oil beaten to burn for light, that a lamp may burn continually in the tabernacle of the testimony, without the veil that is before the ark of the covenant. Shall Aaron and his sons burn it from evening until morning before the Lord. It is a perpetual ordinance throughout your generations of the children of Israel. Chapter 28. And do you take to yourself both Aaron your brother and his sons, even them of the children of Israel, so that Aaron and Nadab and Abiud and Eleazar and Ithamar, sons of Aaron, may minister to me. And you shall make holy apparel for Aaron your brother, for honor and glory. And speak you to all those who are wise and understanding, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom and perception. And they shall make the holy apparel of Aaron for the sanctuary, in which apparel he shall minister to me as priest. And these are the garments which they shall make: the breastplate, and the shoulder piece, and the full-length robe, and the tunic with a fringe, and the tire, and the girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron and his sons to minister to me as priests. And they shall take the gold, and the blue, and the purple, and the scarlet, and the fine linen. And they shall make the shoulder piece of fine linen spun, the woven work of the embroiderer. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces joined together, fastened on the 2 sides. And the woven work of the shoulder pieces which is upon it shall be of 1 piece according to the work, of pure gold and blue and purple, and spun scarlet and fine twined linen. And you shall take the 2 stones, the stones of emerald, and you shall grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 names on the first stone, and the other 6 names on the second stone, according to their births. It shall be the work of the stone engravers are. As the graving of a seal you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. And you shall put the 2 stones on the shoulders of the shoulder piece. They are memorial stones for the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel before the Lord on his 2 shoulders, a memorial for them. And you shall make circlets of pure gold. And you shall make 2 fringes of pure gold, variegated with flowers wreathen work. And you shall put the wreathen fringes on the circlets, fastening them on their shoulder pieces in front. And you shall make the oracle of judgment, the work of the embroiderer. In keeping with the ephod, you shall make it of gold, and blue and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen spun. You shall make it square. It shall be double, of a span the length of it, and of a span the breadth. And you shall interweave with it a texture of 4 rows of stone. There shall be a row of stones, a sardius, a topaz, an emerald, the first row. And the second row, a carbuncle, a sapphire, and a jasper. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, an amethyst. And the 4th row, a chrysolite, and a beryl, and an onyx stone, set round with gold, bound together with gold. Let them be according to their row. And let the stones of the names of the children of Israel be 12 according to their names, engravings as of seals. Let them be for the 12 tribes each according to the name. And you shall make on the oracle woven fringes, a chain work of pure gold. And Aaron shall take the names of the children of Israel, on the oracle of judgment on his breast, a memorial before God for him as he goes into the sanctuary. And you shall put the fringes on the oracle of judgment. You shall put the wreaths on both sides of the oracle. And you shall put the 2 circlets on both the shoulders of the ephod in front. And you shall put the manifestation and the truth on the oracle of judgment. And it shall be on the breast of Aaron, when he goes into the holy place before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgments of the children of Israel on his breast before the Lord continually. And you shall make the full-length tunic olive blue. And the opening of it shall be in the middle, having a fringe round about the opening, the work of the weaver, woven together in the joining of the same piece, that it might not be tore. And under the fringe of the robe below you shall make as it were pomegranates of a flowering pomegranate tree, of blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen spun, under the fringe of the robe round about, golden pomegranates of the same shape, and bells round about between these, a bell by the side of a golden pomegranate, and flower work on the fringe of the robe round about. And the sound of Aaron shall be audible when he ministers, as he goes into the sanctuary before the Lord, and as he goes out, that he die not. And you shall make a plate of pure gold, and you shall grave on it as the graving of a signet, holiness of the Lord. And you shall put it on the spun blue cloth, and it shall be on the mitre. It shall be in the front of the mitre, and it shall be on the forehead of Aaron. And Aaron shall bear away the sins of their holy things, all that the children of Israel shall sanctify of every gift of their holy things. And it shall be on the forehead of Aaron continually acceptable for them before the Lord. And the fringes of the garments shall be of fine linen. And you shall make a tire of fine linen. And you shall make a girdle, the work of the embroiderer. And for the sons of Aaron you shall make tunics and girdles, and you shall make for them tires for honor and glory. And you shall put them on Aaron your brother, and his sons with him, and you shall anoint them and fill their hands, and you shall sanctify them, that they may minister to me in the priest's office. And you shall make for them linen drawers to cover the nakedness of their flesh. They shall reach from the loins to the thighs, and Aaron shall have them, and his sons, whenever they enter into the tabernacle of witness, or when they shall advance to the altar of the sanctuary to minister, so they shall not bring sin upon themselves, lest they die. It is a perpetual statute for him, and for his seed after him. Chapter 29. And these are the things which you shall do to them. You shall sanctify them, so that they shall serve me in the priesthood. And you shall take 1 young calf from the herd, and 2 unblemished rams, and unleavened loaves kneaded with oil, and unleavened cakes anointed with oil. You shall make them of fine flour of wheat, and you shall put them on 1 basket. And you shall offer them on the basket, and the young calf and the 2 rams. And you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the doors of the tabernacle of testimony. And you shall wash them with water. And having taken the garments, you shall put on Aaron your brother both the full-length robe and the ephod and the oracle. And you shall join for him the oracle to the ephod. And you shall put the mitre on his head. And you shall put the plate, even the holiness, on the mitre. And you shall take of the anointing oil, and you shall pour it on his head, and shall anoint him. And you shall bring his sons, and put garments on them. And you shall gird them with the girdles, and put the tires upon them, and they shall have a priestly office to me forever. And you shall fill the hands of Aaron and the hands of his sons. And you shall bring the calf to the door of the tabernacle of witness. And Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the calf, before the Lord, by the doors of the tabernacle of witness. And you shall kill the calf before the Lord, by the doors of the tabernacle of witness. And you shall take of the blood of the calf, and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger. But all the rest of the blood you shall pour out at the foot of the altar. And you shall take all the fat that is on the belly, and the lobe of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and shall put them upon the altar. But the flesh of the calf, and his skin, and his dung, shall you burn with fire without the camp, for it is an offering on account of sin. And you shall take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you shall kill it, and take the blood and pour it on the altar round about. And you shall divide the ram by his several limbs. And you shall wash the inward parts and the feet with water, and you shall put them on the divided parts with the head. And you shall offer the whole ram on the altar, a whole burnt offering to the Lord for a sweet-smelling savor. It is an offering of incense to the Lord. And you shall take the 2nd ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you shall kill it, and take of the blood of it, and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the great toe of his right foot, and on the tips of the right ears of his sons, and on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the great toes of their right feet. And you shall take of the blood from the altar, and of the anointing oil, and you shall sprinkle it upon Aaron and on his garments, and on his sons and on his sons' garments with him. And he shall be sanctified in his apparel, and his sons' apparel with him. But the blood of the ram you shall pour round about upon the altar. And you shall take from the ram its fat, both the fat that covers the belly, and the lobe of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and the right shoulder, for this is a consecration. And 1 cake made with oil, and 1 cake from the basket of unleavened bread set forth before the Lord. And you shall put them all on the hands of Aaron, and on the hands of his sons, and you shall separate them as a separate offering before the Lord. And you shall take them from their hands, and shall offer them up on the altar of whole burnt offering for a sweet-smelling savor before the Lord. It is an offering to the Lord. And you shall take the breast from the ram of consecration, which is Aaron's, and you shall separate it as a separate offering before the Lord, and it shall be to you for a portion. And you shall sanctify the separated breast, and the shoulder of removal which has been separated, and which has been removed from the ram of consecration, of the portion of Aaron and of that of his sons. And it shall be a perpetual statute of the children of Israel to Aaron and his sons, for this is a separate offering. And it shall be a special offering from the children of Israel, from the peace offerings of the children of Israel, a special offering to the Lord. And the apparel of the sanctuary which is Aaron's shall be his sons after him, for them to be anointed in them, and to fill their hands. The priest his successor from amongst his sons, who shall go into the tabernacle of witness to minister in the holies, shall put them on 7 days. And you shall take the ram of consecration, and you shall boil the flesh in the holy place. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram, and the loaves in the basket, by the doors of the tabernacle of witness. They shall eat the offerings with which they were sanctified to fill their hands, to sanctify them. And a stranger shall not eat of them, for they are holy. And if anything be left of the flesh of the sacrifice of consecration and of the loaves until the morning, you shall burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten, for it is a holy thing. And thus shall you do for Aaron and for his sons according to all things that I have commanded you. 7 days shall you fill their hands, and you shall sacrifice the calf of the sin offering on the day of purification. And you shall purify the altar when you do perform consecration upon it, and you shall anoint it so as to sanctify it. 7 days shall you purify the altar and sanctify it, and the altar shall be most holy. Every one that touches the altar shall be hallowed. And these are the offerings which you shall offer upon the altar: 2 unblemished lambs of a year old daily on the altar continually, a constant offering. 1 lamb you shall offer in the morning, and the 2nd lamb you shall offer in the evening. And a 10th measure of fine flour mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. And a drink offering the 4th part of a hin of wine for 1 lamb. And you shall offer the 2nd lamb in the evening, after the manner of the morning offering, and according to the drink offering of the morning lamb. You shall offer it an offering to the Lord for a sweet-smelling savor, a perpetual sacrifice throughout your generations, at the door of the tabernacle of witness before the Lord, wherein I will be known to you from thence, so as to speak to you. And I will there give orders to the children of Israel, and I will be sanctified in my glory. And I will sanctify the tabernacle of testimony, and the altar, and I will sanctify Aaron and his sons, to minister as priests to me. And I will be called upon amongst the children of Israel, and will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, who brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, to be called upon by them, and to be their God. Chapter 30. And you shall make the altar of incense of incorruptible wood. And you shall make it a cubit in length, and a cubit in breadth. It shall be square, and the height of it shall be of 2 cubits. Its horns shall be of the same piece. And you shall gild its grate with pure gold, and its sides round about, and its horns. And you shall make for it a wreathen border of gold round about. And you shall make under its wreathen border 2 rings of pure gold. You shall make it to the 2 corners on the 2 sides. And they shall be bearings for the staves, so as to bear it with them. And you shall make the staves of incorruptible wood, and shall gild them with gold. And you shall set it before the veil that is over the ark of the testimonies, wherein I will make myself known to you from thence. And Aaron shall burn upon it fine compound incense every morning. Whenever he trims the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron lights the lamps in the evening, he shall burn incense upon it, a constant incense offering always before the Lord for their generations. And you shall not offer strange incense upon it, nor an offering made by fire, nor a sacrifice. And you shall not pour a drink offering upon it. And once in the year Aaron shall make atonement on its horns. He shall purge it with the blood of purification for their generations. It is most holy to the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, If you take account of the children of Israel in the surveying of them, and they shall give every one a ransom for his soul to the Lord, then there shall not be amongst them a destruction in the visiting of them. And this is what they shall give: as many as pass the survey, half a didrachm, which is according to the didrachm of the sanctuary. 20 oboli go to the didrachm, but the half of the didrachm is the offering to the Lord. Every one that passes the survey from 20 years old and upwards shall give the offering to the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half didrachm in giving the offering to the Lord, to make atonement for your souls. And you shall take the money of the offering from the children of Israel, and shall give it for the service of the tabernacle of testimony. And it shall be to the children of Israel a memorial before the Lord, to make atonement for your souls. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Make a brazen laver, and a brazen base for it, for washing. And you shall put it between the tabernacle of witness and the altar, and you shall pour forth water into it. And Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet with water from it. Whenever they shall go into the tabernacle of witness, they shall wash themselves with water, so they shall not die, whenever they advance to the altar to do service and to offer the whole burnt offerings to the Lord. They shall wash their hands and feet with water, whenever they shall go into the tabernacle of witness. They shall wash themselves with water, that they die not. And it shall be for them a perpetual statute, for him and his posterity after him. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Do you also take sweet herbs, the flour of choice myrrh 500 shekels, and the half of this 250 shekels of sweet-smelling cinnamon, and 250 shekels of sweet-smelling calamus, and of Cashapp 500 shekels of the sanctuary, and a hin of olive oil. And you shall make it a holy anointing oil, a perfumed ointment tempered by the art of the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. And you shall anoint with it the tabernacle of witness, and the ark of the tabernacle of witness, and all its furniture, and the candlestick and all its furniture, and the altar of incense, and the altar of whole burnt offerings and all its furniture, and the table and all its furniture, and the laver. And you shall sanctify them, and they shall be most holy. Every one that touches them shall be hallowed. And you shall anoint Aaron and his sons, and sanctify them that they may minister to me as priests. And you shall speak to the children of Israel, saying, This shall be to you a holy anointing oil throughout your generations. On man's flesh it shall not be poured. And you shall not make any for yourselves according to this composition. It is holy, and shall be holiness to you. Whosoever shall make it in like manner, and whoever shall give of it to a stranger, shall be destroyed from amongst his people. And the Lord said to Moses, Take for yourself sweet herbs, stacte, onycha, sweet galbanum, and transparent frankincense. There shall be an equal weight of each. And they shall make with it perfumed incense, tempered with the art of a perfumer, a pure holy work. And of these you shall beat some small, and you shall put it before the testimonies in the tabernacle of testimony, whence I will make myself known to you. It shall be to you a most holy incense. You shall not make any for yourselves according to this composition. It shall be to you a holy thing for the Lord. Whosoever shall make any in like manner, so as to smell it, shall perish from his people. Chapter 30. And you shall make the altar of incense of incorruptible wood, and you shall make it a cubit in length, and a cubit in breadth. It shall be square, and the height of it shall be of 2 cubits. Its horns shall be of the same piece. And you shall gild its grate with pure gold, and its sides round about, and its horns. And you shall make for it a wreathen border of gold round about. And you shall make under its wreathen border 2 rings of pure gold. You shall make it to the 2 corners on the 2 sides. And they shall be bearings for the staves, so as to bear it with them. And you shall make the staves of incorruptible wood, and shall gild them with gold. And you shall set it before the veil that is over the ark of the testimonies, wherein I will make myself known to you from thence. And Aaron shall burn upon it fine compound incense every morning. Whenever he trims the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron lights the lamps in the evening, he shall burn incense upon it. A constant incense offering always before the Lord for their generations. And you shall not offer strange incense upon it, nor an offering made by fire, nor a sacrifice. And you shall not pour a drink offering upon it. And once in the year Aaron shall make atonement on its horns. He shall purge it with the blood of purification for their generations. It is most holy to the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, If ye take account of the children of Israel in the surveying of them, and they shall give every one a ransom for his soul to the Lord, then there shall not be amongst them a destruction in the visiting of them. And this is what they shall give, as many as pass the survey, half a didrachm, which is according to the didrachm of the sanctuary. 20 oboli go to the didrachm, but the half of the didrachm is the offering to the Lord. Every one that passes the survey from 20 years old and upwards shall give the offering to the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half didrachm in giving the offering to the Lord, to make atonement for your souls. And you shall take the money of the offering from the children of Israel, and shall give it for the service of the tabernacle of testimony. And it shall be to the children of Israel a memorial before the Lord, to make atonement for your souls. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Make a brazen laver, and a brazen base for it, for washing. And you shall put it between the tabernacle of witness and the altar, and you shall pour forth water into it. And Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet with water from it, whenever they shall go into the tabernacle of witness. They shall wash themselves with water, so they shall not die, whenever they advance to the altar to do service and to offer the whole burnt offerings to the Lord. They shall wash their hands and feet with water, whenever they shall go into the tabernacle of witness. They shall wash themselves with water, that they die not. And it shall be for them a perpetual statute, for him and his posterity after him. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Do you also take sweet herbs, the flour of choice myrrh 500 shekels, and the half of this 250 shekels of sweet-smelling cinnamon, and 250 shekels of sweet-smelling calamus, and of cassia 500 shekels of the sanctuary, and a hin of olive oil. And you shall make it a holy anointing oil, a perfumed ointment tempered by the art of the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. And you shall anoint with it the tabernacle of witness, and the ark of the tabernacle of witness, and all its furniture, and the candlestick and all its furniture, and the altar of incense, and the altar of whole burnt offerings and all its furniture, and the table and all its furniture, and the laver. And you shall sanctify them, and they shall be most holy. Every one that touches them shall be hallowed. And you shall anoint Aaron and his sons, and sanctify them that they may minister to me as priests. And you shall speak to the children of Israel, saying, This shall be to you a holy anointing oil throughout your generations. On man's flesh it shall not be poured. And you shall not make any for yourselves according to this composition. It is holy, and shall be holiness to you. Whosoever shall make it in like manner, and whoever shall give of it to a stranger, shall be destroyed from amongst his people. And the Lord said to Moses, Take for yourself sweet herbs, stacte, onycha, sweet galbanum, and transparent frankincense. There shall be an equal weight of each. And they shall make with it perfumed incense, tempered with the art of a perfumer, a pure holy work. And of these you shall beat some small, and you shall put it before the testimonies in the tabernacle of testimony, whence I will make myself known to you. It shall be to you a most holy incense. You shall not make any for yourselves according to this composition. It shall be to you a holy thing for the Lord. Whosoever shall make any in like manner, so as to smell it, shall perish from his people. Chapter 31. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Behold, I have called by name Bezaleel the son of Urias the son of Or, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with a divine spirit of wisdom, and understanding, and knowledge, to invent in every work, and to frame works, to labor in gold, and silver, and brass, and blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and works in stone, and for artificers' work in wood, to work at all works. And I have appointed him in Eliab the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. And to every one understanding in heart I have given understanding. And they shall make all things as many as I have appointed you, the tabernacle of witness, and the ark of the covenant, and the propitiatory that is upon it, and the furniture of the tabernacle, and the altars, and the table and all its furniture, and the pure candlestick and all its furniture, and the laver and its base, and Aaron's robes of ministry, and the robes of his sons to minister to me as priests, and the anointing oil and the compound incense of the sanctuary. According to all that I have commanded you shall they make them. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Do you also charge the children of Israel, saying, Take heed and keep my Sabbath, for they are a sign with me and amongst you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that sanctifies you. And you shall keep the Sabbaths, because this is holy to the Lord for you. He that profanes it shall surely be put to death. Every one who shall do a work on it, that soul shall be destroyed from the midst of his people. 6 days you shall do works, but the 7th day is the Sabbath, a holy rest to the Lord. Every one who shall do a work on the 7th day shall be put to death. And the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbaths, to observe them throughout their generations. It is a perpetual covenant with me and the children of Israel. It is a perpetual sign with me. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, and on the 7th day he ceased and rested. And he gave to Moses when he left off speaking to him in Mount Sinai the 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone written upon with the finger of God. Chapter 32. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people combined against Aaron, and said to him, Arise and make us gods who shall go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us forth out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And Aaron says to them, Take off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives and daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people took off the golden earrings that were in their ears, and brought them to Aaron. And he received them at their hands, and formed them with a graving tool. And he made them a molten calf, and said, These are your gods, O Israel, which have brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And Aaron, having seen it, built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation, saying, Tomorrow is a feast of the Lord. And having risen early on the morrow, he offered whole burnt offerings, and offered a peace offering. And the people sat down to eat and drink, and rose up to play. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Go quickly, descend hence, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have transgressed. They have quickly gone out of the way which you commanded. They have made for themselves a calf, and worshipped it, and sacrificed to it, and said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And now let me alone, and I will be very angry with them and consume them, and I will make you a great nation. And Moses prayed before the Lord God, and said, Therefore, O Lord, are you very angry with your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great strength, and with your high arm? Take heed lest at any time the Egyptians speak, saying, With evil intent he brought them out to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from off the earth. Cease from your wrathful anger, and be merciful to the sin of your people, remembering Abraham and Isaac and Jacob your servants, to whom you have sworn by yourself, and have spoken to them, saying, I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of heaven for multitude, and all this land which you spoke of to give to them, so that they shall possess it forever. And the Lord was prevailed upon to preserve his people. And Moses turned and went down from the mountain. And the 2 tables of testimony were in his hands, tables of stone written on both their sides. They were written within and without, and the tables were the work of God, and the writing of God written on the tables. And Joshua, having heard the voice of the people crying, says to Moses, There is a noise of war in the camp. And Moses says, It is not the voice of them that begin the battle, nor the voice of them that begin the cry of defeat, but the voice of them that begin the banquet of wine do I hear. And when he drew near to the camp, he sees the calf and the dances. And Moses, being very angry, cast the 2 tables out of his hands, and broke them to pieces under the mountain. And having taken the calf which they made, he consumed it with fire, and ground it very small, and scattered it on the water, and made the children of Israel to drink it. And Moses said to Aaron, What has this people done to you, that you have brought upon them a great sin? And Aaron said to Moses, Be not angry, my Lord, for you know the impetuosity of this people. For they say to me, Make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this man Moses, who brought us out of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. And I said to them, If any one has golden ornaments, take them off. And they gave them me, and I cast them into the fire, and there came out this calf. And when Moses saw that the people was scattered, for Aaron had scattered them so as to be a rejoicing to their enemies, then stood Moses at the gate of the camp, and said, Who is on the Lord's side? Let him come to me. Then all the sons of Levi came to him, and he says to them, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, Put every one his sword on his thigh, and go through and return from gate to gate through the camp, and kill every one his brother, and every one his neighbor, and every one him that is nearest to him. And the sons of Levi did as Moses spoke to them. And there fell of the people in that day to the number of 3,000 men. And Moses said to them, You have filled your hands this day to the Lord, each one on his son or on his brother, so that blessing should be given to you. And it came to pass after the morrow had begun, that Moses said to the people, You have sinned a great sin. And now I will go up to God, that I may make atonement for your sin. And Moses returned to the Lord and said, I pray, O Lord, this people has sinned a great sin, and they have made for themselves golden gods. And now if you will forgive their sin, forgive it. And if not, blot me out of your book, which you have written. And the Lord said to Moses, If any one has sinned against me, I will blot them out of my book. And now go, descend, and lead this people into the place of which I spoke to you. Behold, my angels shall go before your face, and in the day when I shall visit I will bring upon them their sin. And the Lord struck the people for the making the calf, which Aaron made. Chapter 33. And the Lord said to Moses, Go forward, go up. Hence, you and your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, into the land which I swore to Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your seed. And I will send at the same time my angel before your face, and he shall cast out the Amorite and the Chetite, and the Pharisite and Gergesite, and Evite, and Jebusite, and Canaanite. And I will bring you into a land flowing with milk and honey. For I will not go up with you, because you are a stiff-necked people, lest I consume you by the way. And the people, having heard this grievous saying, mourned in mourning apparel. For the Lord said to the children of Israel, You are a stiff-necked people. Take heed lest I bring on you another plague, and destroy you. Now then put off your glorious apparel, and your ornaments, and I will show you what I will do to you. So the sons of Israel took off their ornaments and their array at the mount of Horeb. And Moses took his tabernacle and pitched it without the camp, at a distance from the camp. And it was called the tabernacle of testimony. And it came to pass that every one that sought the Lord went forth to the tabernacle which was without the camp. And whenever Moses went into the tabernacle without the camp, all the people stood every one watching by the doors of his tent. And when Moses departed, they took notice until he entered into the tabernacle. And when Moses entered into the tabernacle, the pillar of the cloud descended, and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and God talked to Moses. And all the people saw the pillar of the cloud standing by the door of the tabernacle, and all the people stood and worshipped every one at the door of his tent. And the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as if one should speak to his friend. And he retired into the camp. But his servant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, departed not forth from the tabernacle. And Moses said to the Lord, Behold, you say to me, Lead on this people. But you have not showed me whom you will send with me. But you have said to me, I know you above all, and you have favor with me. If then I have found favor in your sight, reveal yourself to me, that I may evidently see you, that I may find favor in your sight, and that I may know that this great nation is your people. And he says, I myself will go before you, and give you rest. And he says to him, If you go not up with us yourself, bring me not up hence. And how shall it be surely known, that both I and this people have found favor with you, except only if you go with us? So both I and your people shall be glorified beyond all the nations, as many as are upon the earth. And the Lord said to Moses, I will also do for you this thing which you have spoken, for you have found grace before me, and I know you above all. And Moses says, Manifest yourself to me. And God said, I will pass by before you with my glory, and I will call by my name, the Lord, before you. And I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and will have pity on whom I will have pity. And God said, You shall not be able to see my face, for no man shall see my face, and live. And the Lord said, Behold, there is a place by me. You shall stand upon the rock. And when my glory shall pass by, then I will put you into a hole of the rock, and I will cover you over with my hand, until I shall have passed by. And I will remove my hand, and then shall you see my back parts, but my face shall not appear to you. Chapter 34. And the Lord said to Moses, Hew for yourself 2 tables of stone, as also the first were, and come up to me to the mountain. And I will write upon the tables the words, which were on the first tables, which you broke, and be ready by the morning. And you shall go up to the Mount Sinai, and shall stand there for me on the top of the mountain. And let no one go up with you, nor be seen in all the mountain. And let not the sheep and oxen feed near that mountain. And Moses hewed 2 tables of stone, as also the first were. And Moses, having arisen early, went up to the Mount Sinai, as the Lord appointed him. And Moses took the 2 tables of stone. And the Lord descended in a cloud, and stood near him there, and called by the name of the Lord. And the Lord passed by before his face, and proclaimed, The Lord God, pitiful and merciful, longsuffering and very compassionate, and true, and keeping justice and mercy for thousands, taking away iniquity and unrighteousness and sins. And he will not clear the guilty, bringing the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and to the children's children, to the 3rd and 4th generation. And Moses hasted, and bowed to the earth, and worshipped, and said, If I have found grace before you, let my Lord go with us, for the people is stiff-necked. And you shall take away our sins and our iniquities, and we will be yours. And the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I establish a covenant for you in the presence of all your people. I will do glorious things, which have not been done in all the earth, or in any nation. And all the people amongst whom you are shall see the works of the Lord, that they are wonderful, which I will do for you. Do you take heed to all things whatever I command you? Behold, I cast out before your face the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Perizzite, and the Chetite, and Evite, and Girgasite, and Jebusite. Take heed to yourself, lest at any time you make a covenant with the dwellers on the land, into which you are entering, lest it be to you a stumbling block amongst you. You shall destroy their altars, and break in pieces their pillars, and you shall cut down their groves, and the graven images of their gods you shall burn with fire. For you shall not worship strange gods, for the Lord God, a jealous name, is a jealous God, lest at any time you make a covenant with the dwellers on the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and sacrifice to their gods, and they call you, and you should eat of their feasts, and you should take of their daughters to your sons, and you should give of your daughters to their sons, and your daughters should go a-whoring after their gods, and your sons should go a-whoring after their gods. And you shall not make to yourself molten gods. And you shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, as I have charged you, at the season in the month of new corn. For in the month of new corn you came out from Egypt. The males are mine, everything that opens the womb, every firstborn of oxen, and every firstborn of sheep. And the firstborn of an ass you shall redeem with a sheep. And if you will not redeem it, you shall pay a price. Every firstborn of your sons shall you redeem. You shall not appear before me empty. 6 days you shall work, But on the 7th day you shall rest. There shall be rest in seed time and harvest. And you shall keep to me the feast of weeks, the beginning of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering in the middle of the year. 3 times in the year shall every male of yours appear before the Lord the God of Israel. For when I shall have cast out the nations before your face, and shall have enlarged your coasts, no one shall desire your land, whenever you may go up to appear before the Lord your God 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifices with leaven, neither shall the sacrifices of the feast of the Passover remain till the morning. The first fruits of your land shall you put into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a lamb in his mother's milk. And the Lord said to Moses, Write these words for yourself, for on these words I have established a covenant with you and with Israel. And Moses was there before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat bread, and he did not drink water. And he wrote upon the tables these words of the covenant, the 10 sayings. And when Moses went down from the mountain, there were the 2 tables in the hands of Moses. As then he went down from the mountain, Moses knew not that the appearance of the skin of his face was glorified, when God spoke to him. And Aaron and all the elders of Israel saw Moses, and the appearance of the skin of his face was made glorious, and they feared to approach him. And Moses called them. And Aaron and all the rulers of the synagogue turned towards him, and Moses spoke to them. And afterwards all the children of Israel came to him, and he commanded them all things, whatever the Lord had commanded him in the Mount of Sinai. And when he ceased speaking to them, he put a veil on his face. And whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak to him, he took off the veil till he went out. And he went forth and spoke to all the children of Israel whatever the Lord commanded him. And the children of Israel saw the face of Moses, that it was glorified. And Moses put the veil over his face, till he went in to speak with him. Chapter 35. And Moses gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel together, and said, These are the words which the Lord has spoken for you to do them. 6 days shall you perform works. But on the 7th day shall be rest, a holy Sabbath, a rest for the Lord. Every one that does work on it, let him die. You shall not burn a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. I am the Lord. And Moses spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which the Lord has appointed you, saying, Take of yourselves an offering for the Lord. Every one that engages in his heart shall bring the first fruits to the Lord. Gold, silver, brass, blue, purple, double scarlet spun, and fine linen spun, and goat's hair, and ram's skins dyed red, and skins dyed blue, and incorruptible wood, and sardine stones, and stones for engraving for the shoulder piece and full-length robe. And every man that is wise in heart amongst you, let him come and work all things whatever the Lord has commanded. The tabernacle, and the cords, and the coverings, and the rings, and the bars, and the posts, and the ark of the testimony, and its staves, and its propitiatory, and the veil, and the curtains of the court, and its posts, and the emerald stones, and the incense, and the anointing oil, and the table and all its furniture, and the candlestick for the light and all its furniture, and the altar and all its furniture, and the holy garments of Aaron the priest, and the garments in which they shall do service, and the garments of priesthood for the sons of Aaron, and the anointing oil, and the compound incense. And all the congregation of the children of Israel went out from Moses, and they brought, they whose heart prompted them, and they to whoever it seemed good in their mind, each an offering. And they brought an offering to the Lord for all the works of the tabernacle of witness, and all its services, and for all the robes of the sanctuary. And the men, even every one to whom it seemed good in his heart, brought from the women, even brought seals and earrings, and finger rings, and necklaces, and bracelets, every article of gold, and all as many as brought ornaments of gold to the Lord, and with whoever fine linen was found. And they brought skins dyed blue, and ram's skins dyed red. And every one that offered an offering brought silver and brass, the offerings to the Lord, and they with whom was found incorruptible wood. And they brought offerings for all the works of the preparation. And every woman, skilled in her heart to spin with her hands, brought spun articles, the blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen. And all the women to whom it seemed good in their heart and their wisdom spun the goat's hair. And the rulers brought the emerald stones, and the stones for setting in the ephod, and the oracle, and the compounds both for the anointing oil, and the composition of the incense. And every man and woman whose mind inclined them to come in and do all the works, as many as the Lord appointed them to do by Moses. They the children of Israel brought an offering to the Lord. And Moses said to the children of Israel, Behold, God has called by name Bezaleel the son of Urias the son of Ur, of the tribe of Judah, and has filled him with a divine spirit of wisdom and understanding, and knowledge of all things, to labor skillfully in all works of cunning workmanship, to form the gold and the silver and the brass, and to work in stone, and to fashion the wood, and to work in every work of wisdom. And God gave improvement in understanding both to him and to Eliab the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. And God filled them with wisdom, understanding and perception, to understand to work all the works of the sanctuary, and to weave the woven and embroidered work with scarlet and fine linen, to do all work of curious workmanship and embroidery. Chapter 36. And Bezaleel wrought, and Eliab and every one wise in understanding, to whom was given wisdom and knowledge, to understand to do all the works according to the holy offices, according to all things which the Lord appointed. And Moses called Bezaleel and Eliab, and all that had wisdom, to whom God gave knowledge in their heart, and all who were freely willing to come forward to the works, to perform them. And they received from Moses all the offerings, which the children of Israel brought for all the works of the sanctuary to do them. And they continued to receive the gifts brought from those who brought them in the morning. And there came all the wise men who wrought the works of the sanctuary, each according to his own work, which they wrought. And one said to Moses, The people bring an abundance too great in proportion to all the works which the Lord has appointed them to do. And Moses commanded, and proclaimed in the camp, saying, Let neither man nor woman any longer labor for the offerings of the sanctuary. And the people were restrained from bringing any more. And they had materials sufficient for making the furniture, and they left some besides. And every wise one amongst those that wrought made the robes of the holy places, which belonged to Aaron the priest, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he made the ephod of gold, and blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twine. And the plates were divided, the threads of gold, so as to interweave with the blue and purple, and with the spun scarlet, and the fine linen twine. They made it a woven work, shoulder pieces joined from both sides, a work woven by mutual twisting of the parts into one another. They made it of the same material according to the making of it, of gold, and blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twined, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they made the 2 emerald stones clasped together and set in gold, graven and cut after the cutting of a seal with the names of the children of Israel. And he put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod, as stones of memorial of the children of Israel, as the Lord appointed Moses. And they made the oracle, a work woven with embroidery, according to the work of the ephod, of gold, and blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twined. They made the oracle square and double, the length of a span, and the breadth of a span double. And there was interwoven with it a woven work of 4 rows of stones, a series of stones, the first row, a sardius and topaz and emerald, and the second row, a carbuncle and sapphire and jasper, and the third row, a ligure and agate and amethyst, and the fourth row a chrysolite and beryl and onyx set round about with gold, and fastened with gold. And the stones were 12 according to the names of the children of Israel, graven according to their names like seals, each according to his own name for the 12 tribes. And they made on the oracle turned wreaths, wreathen work, of pure gold. And they made 2 golden circlets and 2 golden rings. And they put the 2 golden rings on both the upper corners of the oracle. And they put the golden wreaths on the rings on both sides of the oracle, and the 2 wreaths into the 2 couplings. And they put them on the 2 circlets. And they put them on the shoulders of the ephod opposite each other in front. And they made 2 golden rings, and put them on the 2 projections on the top of the oracle, and on the top of the hinder part of the ephod within. And they made 2 golden rings, and put them on both the shoulders of the ephod under it, in front by the coupling above the connection of the ephod. And he fastened the oracle by the rings that were on it to the rings of the ephod, which were fastened with a string of blue, joined together with the woven work of the ephod, that the oracle should not be loosed from the ephod, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they made the tunic under the ephod, woven work, all of blue, and the opening of the tunic in the midst woven closely together, the opening having a fringe round about, that it might not be tore. And they made on the border of the tunic below pomegranates as of a flowering pomegranate tree, of blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twined. And they made golden bells, and put the bells on the border of the tunic round about between the pomegranates, a golden bell and a pomegranate on the border of the tunic round about, for the ministration, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they made vestments of fine linen, a woven work, for Aaron and his sons, and the tires of fine linen. and the mitre of fine linen, and the drawers of fine linen twined, and their girdles of fine linen, in blue, in purple, and scarlet spun, the work of an embroiderer, according as the Lord commanded Moses. And they made the golden plate, a dedicated thing of the sanctuary, of pure gold. And he wrote upon it graven letters as of a seal, Holiness to the Lord. And they put it on the border of blue, so that it should be on the mitre above, as the Lord commanded Moses. Chapter 37. And they made 10 curtains for the tabernacle, of 8 and 20 cubits the length of one curtain. The same measure was to all. And the breadth of one curtain was of 4 cubits. And they made the veil of blue, and purple, and spun, scarlet, and fine linen twined, the woven work with cherubs. And they put it on 4 posts of incorruptible wood overlaid with gold. And their chapiters were gold, and their 4 sockets were silver. And they made the veil of the door of the tabernacle of witness of blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twined, woven work with cherubs, and their posts 5, and the rings. And they gilded their chapiters and their clasps with gold. And they had 5 sockets of brass. And they made the court towards the south. The curtains of the court of fine linen twined, 100 cubits every way, and their posts 20, and their sockets 20. And on the north side 100 every way, and on the south side 100 every way, and their posts 20, and their sockets 20. And on the west side curtains of 50 cubits, their posts 10, and their sockets 10. And on the east side curtains of 50 cubits of 15 cubits behind, and their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And at the second back on this side and on that by the gate of the court, curtains of 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. All the curtains of the tabernacle of fine linen twined, and the sockets of their pillars of brass, and their hooks of silver, and their chapiters overlaid with silver, and all the posts of the court overlaid with silver. And the veil of the gate of the court, the work of an embroiderer of blue, and purple, and spun scarlet, and fine linen twine, the length of 20 cubits, and the height and the breadth of 5 cubits, made equal to the curtains of the court, and their pillars 4. And their sockets 4 of brass, and their hooks of silver, and their chapiters overlaid with silver. And all the pins of the court round about of brass, and they were overlaid with silver. And this was the construction of the tabernacle of witness, accordingly as it was appointed to Moses, so that the public service should belong to the Levites, through Ithamar the son of Aaron the priest. And Bezaleel the son of Urias of the tribe of Judah did as the Lord commanded Moses. And Eliab the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan was there, who was chief artificer in the woven works and needleworks and embroideries, in weaving with the scarlet and fine linen. Chapter 38. And Bezaleel made the ark, and overlaid it with pure gold within and without. And he cast for it 4 golden rings, 2 on the one side, and 2 on the other, wide enough for the staves, so that men should bear the ark with them. And he made the propitiatory over the ark of pure gold, and the 2 cherubs of gold, 1 cherub on the one end of the propitiatory, and another cherub on the other end of the propitiatory, overshadowing the propitiatory with their wings. And he made the set table of pure gold, and cast for it 4 rings, 2 on the one side and 2 on the other side, broad, so that men should lift it with the staves in them. And he made the staves of the ark and of the table, and gilded them with gold. And he made the furniture of the table, both the dishes, and the censers, and the cups, and the bowls with which he should offer drink offerings, of gold. And he made the candlestick which gives light, of gold, the stem solid, and the branches from both its sides, and blossoms proceeding from its branches, 3 on this side, and 3 on the other, made equal to each other. And as to their lamps, which are on the ends, knops proceeded from them, and sockets proceeding from them, that the lamps might be upon them. And the 7th socket, on the top of the candlestick, on the summit above, entirely of solid gold. And on the candlestick 7 golden lamps, and its snuffers gold, and its funnels gold. He overlaid the posts with silver, and cast for each post golden rings, and gilded the bars with gold. And he gilded the posts of the veil with gold, and made the hooks of gold. He made also the rings of the tabernacle of gold, and the rings of the court, and the rings for drawing out the veil above of brass. He cast the silver chapiters of the tabernacle, and the brazen chapiters of the door of the tabernacle, and the gate of the court. And he made silver hooks for the posts. He overlaid them with silver on the posts. He made the pins of the tabernacle, and the pins of the court of brass. He made the brazen altar of the brazen censers, which belonged to the men engaged in sedition with the gathering of corn. He made all the vessels of the altar and its grate, and its base, and its bowls, and the brazen flesh hooks. He made an appendage for the altar of network under the grate, beneath it as far as the middle of it. And he fastened to it 4 brazen rings on the 4 parts of the appendage of the altar, wide enough for the bars, so as to bear the altar with them. He made the holy anointing oil and the composition of the incense, the pure work of the perfumer. He made the brazen laver, and the brazen base of it of the mirrors of the women that fasted, who fasted by the doors of the tabernacle of witness, in the day in which he set it up. And he made the laver that at it Moses and Aaron and his sons might wash their hands and their feet, when they went into the tabernacle of witness, or whenever they should advance to the altar to do service, they washed at it, as the Lord commanded Moses. Chapter 39. All the gold that was employed for the works, according to all the fabrication of the holy things, was of the gold of the offerings, 29 talents, and 720 shekels according to the holy shekel. And the offering of silver from the men that were numbered of the congregation 100 talents, and 1,775 shekels, 1 drachm apiece, even the half shekel, according to the holy shekel, every one that passed the survey from 20 years old and upwards to the number of 600,000, and 3,550. And the 100 talents of silver went to the casting of the 100 chapiters of the tabernacle, and to the chapiters of the veil, 100 chapiters to the 100 talents, a talent to a chapiter, and 1,775 shekels he formed into hooks for the pillars, and he gilt their chapiters and adorned them. And the brass of the offering was 70 talents, and 1,500 shekels. And they made of it the bases of the door of the tabernacle of witness, and the bases of the court round about, and the bases of the gate of the court, and the pins of the tabernacle, and the pins of the court round about, and the brazen appendage of the altar, and all the vessels of the altar, and all the instruments of the tabernacle of witness. And the children of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses, so did they. And of the gold that remained of the offering they made vessels to minister with before the Lord. And the blue that was left, and the purple and scarlet they made into garments of ministry for Aaron, so that he should minister with them in the sanctuary. And they brought the garments to Moses, and the tabernacle, and its furniture, its bases, and its bars, and the posts, and the ark of the covenant, and its bearers, and the altar, and all its furniture. And they made the anointing oil, and the incense of composition, and the pure candlestick, and its lamps, lamps for burning, and oil for the light, and the table of showbread, and all its furniture, and the showbread upon it, and the garments of the sanctuary which belonged to Aaron, and the garments of his sons for the priestly ministry, and the curtains of the court, and the posts, and the veil of the door of the tabernacle, and the gate of the court, and all the vessels of the tabernacle, and all its instruments, and the skins, even rams' skins dyed red, and the blue coverings, and the coverings of the other things, and the pins, and all the instruments for the works of the tabernacle of witness, whatsoever things the Lord appointed Moses. So did the children of Israel make all the furniture. And Moses saw all the works, and they had done them all as the Lord commanded Moses. So had they made them. And Moses blessed them. Chapter 40. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, On the first day of the first month, at the new moon, you shall set up the tabernacle of witness, and you shall place in it the ark of the testimony, and shall cover the ark with the veil. And you shall bring in the table, and shall set forth that which is to be set forth on it. And you shall bring in the candlestick, and place its lamps on it. And you shall place the golden altar to burn incense before the ark. And you shall put a covering of a veil on the door of the tabernacle of witness. And you shall put the altar of burnt offerings by the doors of the tabernacle of witness. And you shall set up the tabernacle round about. And you shall hallow all that belongs to it round about. And you shall take the anointing oil, and shall anoint the tabernacle, and all things in it, and shall sanctify it, and all its furniture, and it shall be holy. And you shall anoint the altar of burnt offerings, and all its furniture, and you shall hallow the altar, and the altar shall be most holy. And you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the doors of the tabernacle of witness, and you shall wash them with water. And you shall put on Aaron the holy garments, and you shall anoint him, and you shall sanctify him, and he shall minister to me as priest. And you shall bring up his sons, and shall put garments on them, and you shall anoint them as you did anoint their father, and they shall minister to me as priests. And it shall be that they shall have an everlasting anointing of priesthood throughout their generations. And Moses did all things whatever the Lord commanded him, so did he. And it came to pass in the first month, in the second year after their going forth out of Egypt, at the new moon, that the tabernacle was set up, And Moses set up the tabernacle, and put on the chapiters, and put the bars into their places, and set up the posts. And he stretched out the curtains over the tabernacle, and put the veil of the tabernacle on it above as the Lord commanded Moses. And he took the testimonies, and put them into the ark. And he put the staves by the sides of the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and put on it the covering of the veil, and covered the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the table in the tabernacle of witness, on the north side without the veil of the tabernacle. And he put on it the showbread before the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the candlestick into the tabernacle of witness, on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. And he put on it its lamps before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the golden altar in the tabernacle of witness before the veil. And he burnt on it incense of composition, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the altar of the burnt offerings by the doors of the tabernacle. And he set up the court round about the tabernacle and the altar. And Moses accomplished all the works. And the cloud covered the tabernacle of witness, and the tabernacle was filled with the glory of the Lord. And Moses was not able to enter into the tabernacle of testimony, because the cloud overshadowed it, and the tabernacle was filled with the glory of the Lord. And when the cloud went up from the tabernacle, the children of Israel prepared to depart with their baggage. And if the cloud went not up, they did not prepare to depart till the day when the cloud went up. For a cloud was on the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night before all Israel in all their journeyings.